Hello everyone.
Welcome to the U Sports community.
A community striving to enhance youth sports.
I'm Taylor Medak.
I'm Sean Connauton.
And I'm Matt Mah.
Thank you for joining us today. The U Sports community is proudly presented by Nuance Hockey and Mah Golf.
Nuance Hockey provides detail-driven on- and off-ice development in the Edmonton area. For more information, please visit our website at nuance.hockey and follow us on social media.
Mah Golf provides elite coaching for golfers of all skill levels at the Millwoods Golf Club in Edmonton. Our apparel is provided by Bird & Barley, prairie-inspired, golf-focused. To receive 15% off your next order, please visit birdandbarley.com and use our promo code YSC15.
This episode is produced by Nick Hussey of Hussey Multimedia, and hydration is provided by Earthwater. We are very excited to have Lawrence Dushenski joining the community for today's podcast episode.
Larry is a lawyer and a basketball coach here in Edmonton.
He's currently part of the coaching staff for the Jasper Place High School basketball team, as well as the Good Hoops basketball club. Larry was born and raised in Edmonton, but spent his 20s in Toronto going to school and working for TSN.
Larry, we really appreciate you taking the time to be here, and welcome to the U Sports community. How are you doing today?
Doing great, boys. Thanks for having me.
Awesome.
Nice.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, our pleasure, and we'd like to start things off getting our guests to kind of go way back and dive into their first memory of sports and being a kid, and what kind of jumps to mind when we say that for you.
First memory of sports. Well, I played a lot of soccer growing up. My parents wouldn't let me play hockey. They didn't want me getting head injuries when I was a kid. So never played hockey growing up, would go to the rink, but played a lot of soccer, like tier 1 rep style soccer. First memory, I would say, or first one that really stands out, I think it was like under 11 provincials. I played for a club called West End Raiders, which is now called the Drillers. If anyone knows local soccer, Drillers are still a club around here. Playing with some guys who I still am friends with today. It was provincials. It was indoor soccer, so it was like wintertime. We were the 1 seed, I think, going in, and I scored both goals in a 2-1 win, which pretty much sealed us winning provincials. We won gold in provincials, thanks in large part to those 2 snipes of mine.
Nice.
So I will always remember those 2 goals. And I'd say that was like my fondest. I probably remember playing like under 5 run around Rugrats stuff, but that doesn't really stand out quite as much. But kind of really succeeding or achieving something, I would say, yeah. I'm pretty sure it was under 11.
That's awesome. And so if you were, that committed to soccer, were you playing indoor as well as outdoor? Or was it
year-round. It was indoor, outdoor. I remember one year we had outdoor provincials, and then the next day was indoor tryouts.
Oh, wow.
So it was
It's a quick turnaround.
year-round, just like lots of other sports are.
Right.
But it was all year round and played at a pretty high level up until I was about 12 or 13. And then I just started playing school sports, kind of gave up rep soccer. It was getting to be a bit too much politics, a bit too much other stuff, and too much parents being involved in stuff. And my parents were never really that type of parents to get super involved. And there was kids transferring clubs as like 12-year-olds.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm going to go play for another club. And I was like, where did that guy go? He was our best player. It's like, oh, he's on a different club now. I'm like, okay, this is a bit too much. So I just gave that up and started playing sports in school. And yeah, that was about it.
Yeah, it's amazing when you can be that age and start having that level of politics start kicking in where, kids are literally becoming free agents and, obviously seeing that a lot in hockey. And, it's going to be really interesting to hear your perspective in the basketball world as we get into this. But so for the school sports, what were some of the ones that you gravitated to when you started transitioning out of that club soccer and into the school sports?
I played, in high school, I played football at Rushep. I never actually played high school basketball, even though a bunch of my friends did. I never even tried out. I played basketball, but I knew I was kind of never really good enough and wasn't really that interested in trying out. Played soccer in high school at Shep as well. So those were the ones I focused on, and then was in the gym all the time trying to get stronger for no apparent reason. Because I was on the football team, but I didn't really play much.
Yeah.
I was just kind of hanging out with my friends.
Nice.
So it was always more of a social thing to me, playing sports.
Yeah.
Getting to be with my friends, having a good time. Like same as like golf. I never got to be as good as you guys or as good as my brother, but it was always more fun to just hang out and be social. I was never at the range for 3 hours a day. I was like, oh, got a tee time at noon. I'll be there at like 11:45.
Right.
And have a good time and then go home.
For sure. Well, obviously, we're curious about golf because it's a big sport for us. When did golf start to become something that you're interested in?
It was funny because I actually started golfing before my brother.
Oh, wow.
wow.
So I was talking about the good friend of mine from soccer who I'm still good friends with now. He got me into golf because his dad was into golf. He started golfing. So I got like a 5-piece set when I was like 9 or 10 years old.
Yeah.
And we got a membership out at this old 9-hole course called Westridge, I think.
Yeah.
It was like far away, like 45 minutes away, but we got like a cheap membership, a junior thing. It was like $100 for the year. So we would just go out there and play 9 holes all the time. And then my brother started getting into it too. And then my brother actually bought his first set of clubs, which I remember was like an 11-piece women's graphite set because he was like 12 years old with the money from his bar mitzvah. Yeah. So that's how he got into it. And then he kind of went way more intensely into it because in the summers I would go out to summer camp and my brother would stay in town and golf all day with you guys.
Yeah.
And then I remember coming home one year from summer camp. He's like, "Oh, I broke par at Vic. I shot like a 70 or something." I was like, wow, I've like never even come close to that. Like, that's awesome. So he got like really into it and then played at U of A for a year and still plays, not quite as much, but yeah, it's funny because I started playing before him by a year or two, but then he lapped me kind of skill wise because he just put more time into it as a youth.
For sure. And, obviously we know Pete well from over the years and, we've talked about siblings a lot in previous episodes and just starting to kind of hear about that relationship that you guys had in terms of golf. Were there any other sports that you guys like played together growing up?
Not really, because like there's a 2-year age gap. So I remember 1 year in soccer, I got like called up to his community league team.
Yeah.
I don't know if they were short on guys or this was just before I started playing club soccer or they needed me for a couple games, but we never really played on the same team because a 2-year age gap is kind of hard to, in any youth sports, it's always broken down by years. Mm-hmm. He played soccer a bit. He never played club like I did. But yeah, golf was the one sport that we always did and still do play together because age gaps don't really matter.
Right.
I guess the nice thing with golf too is even skill gap doesn't really matter.
Totally.
Either.
And it's funny because with a lot of my friends, they always want to play matches. Okay, I'll give you this many strokes. You give me that many strokes. Let's put 5-5-5 and let's auto press on everything. With my brother, he's the exact opposite. He just wants to go out and play.
Yeah.
We don't even keep score.
Yeah.
Like he played some competitive golf in university and country club with you guys.
Yeah.
And I think he just wants nothing to do with competitive golf anymore.
Yeah.
So when him and I play, like, when you get a birdie, but then you kind of have to think back at the end of the round, like, what did I shoot? Because, like, we literally just don't have a scorecard out, hit some shots. If you hit at X, then you just hit another one, and you just go out and have a good time.
Yeah.
And it's just more relaxing for him. And I'm cool to play a match with my friends or to just play chill version with him. It doesn't really matter to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to just be in the moment and be able to enjoy it and not have to have that extra pressure, especially when there's so many other pressures in life,
Absolutely. And it's fun to put some money on the line with the boys, but then if you just want to go out and have a good time, then yeah.
It's a nice way to spend 4 hours with your brother.
Totally.
Yeah.
Which is nice because like he just got a membership down at the Mayfair a couple years ago, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And before that, we wouldn't golf together that much because it's always he has kids. I now have kids. It's hard to find time, find a place, all these things. But the last couple of years, him and I have played maybe 10 rounds together a year, which is more than we had in 10 years.
Right.
Because it's just down the hill, like 10-minute drive for me. He's moving soon, and it'll be a close drive for him. And it's just so nice to be close, and even if you play 9 holes, play 18, whatever, it's just nice way to spend a morning, afternoon, whatever you want to do.
When you guys were younger, did you play that same way, not keep score, and just kind of shoot the ball?
I think when we were younger, we would have kept score, but honestly, I can't remember. I was never as much into competitive golf. He got into that more. I would just go out and play.
No.
I'm sure we did keep score, like trying to develop a handicap when you're younger and trying to do all these things and play some tournaments. But yeah, it's never been super competitive for me. I've been always more so like a fan of sports rather than like personally the highly competitive one. I'm more interested in like watching people be successful rather than kind of doing it myself.
Right. Yeah. That was actually going to be my next question is, obviously I would imagine there's some overlap with the sports that you enjoyed playing and the ones that you were a fan of. But were there also additional sports outside of the ones that you participated in that you also were drawn to on a fan level?
It's funny because I think the sport I'm now the most into is basketball for sure. I coach it. I follow kind of all levels of amateur, pro, men's, women's, a bit of everything. And I started getting into that in like junior high, I guess. And started playing a bit, but yeah, never highly competitively, never very well. But yeah, and I used to be super into following hockey, but I've kind of completely lost track of hockey. Like the Oilers got this new Wallman guy, and I'm like, I've never heard of this guy. Like I used to know like the top 25 prospects of the Oilers and how they're doing in whatever junior league in Sweden they're playing in. But now I've kind of lost complete track of it because there's only so much you can pay attention to at once.
Right.
And the older you get, the more responsibilities with work and life and all these things. So there's a couple hours of the day that I have time to kind of look into sports and read up on stuff. And I can't read up about everything.
Yeah.
So I just kind of focus on basketball these days.
Yeah.
And have an NFL I track pretty closely. But hockey, I've kind of lost complete track. I used to know, as I said, I used to know everything about everyone, but now, or like even when I was even younger, like baseball, I knew every baseball player on every team, and now I watch a Blue Jays game and I know like Vladdy, and like, that's about it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that makes sense. Like some people are okay being more superficial fans and, just kind of watching and not knowing the deeper side of it. It seems like for you, that's kind of a common thread throughout, even as a kid, is like if you were doing something, you wanted to really understand it to a deep level. And that makes sense. Like you're a busy guy, you got a job, you got kids, dog, right? There's a lot going on. And so now you're just having to prioritize and say, hey, like I still want to engage in something at a deep level. So some of these other sports are just going to have to be off the plate.
Totally. And like I probably know more about Edmonton high school basketball than like most anyone else in the world.
Sure. Yeah.
Like
yeah.
it's like I'm like top 5, but like it's a super niche thing that a lot of like there's I was at city finals last night, and like there's lots of good high level stuff, and I'm sure you guys find the same thing. If you have some sort of personal investment in it, it's so much easier to track it super closely.
Yeah.
Like when I was in Toronto working for TSN, I was going to every Leafs game, going to every Raptors game. So of course, every little lineup decision for every team, and it matters, and you're invested and you're talking to the coaches and everything. Like I knew, this fourth liner's playing today. It's like, wow, big deal.
Yeah.
I don't know who, like I know who the top guys on the Leafs are now, but I don't know who the depth guys are anymore. And same as with the basketball I coach, is once you get really invested in it, then everything matters. Every little decision matters, every player on every team.
Yeah.
But if you're just kind of watching it from afar, like what the Blue Jays do right now doesn't really matter to me. I haven't been to a game in 10 years.
Yeah.
Don't really watch the games. They're not very good.
Yeah.
All I hear is they keep trying to sign guys and then never actually get the guys. So I'm like, okay, what? And then it sounds like Vladdy might leave.
Yeah.
So like, it's what's there to be invested in?
Totally.
Yeah.
I guess what drew you to basketball first at a young age? Was it, I don't know if you were into video games ever, or like was a player that kind of...
It was funny. Like there was like, I'm kind of like the Vince Carter generation.
Okay.
So I distinctly, speaking of like youngest sports memory, I distinctly remember watching the Vince Carter dunk contest in my basement. My parents were out at some fundraiser. I ordered a pizza for myself, and I was just sitting there watching it by myself.
Nice.
And it was amazing.
Yeah.
And I remember there's a basketball magazine called Slam Magazine, which is still a big thing. It was obviously a bigger thing kind of pre-internet. I remember the first time I bought a copy and kind of started reading it and learning about basketball, because basketball isn't that big in Edmonton.
Yeah.
And this was kind of like pre-Raptors, or like when they were just starting and no one was really that big into it in Edmonton. So I started getting into it in like, junior high, something around there. And then was, watching more pro stuff when I was in Toronto. Kind of still tracking the amateur side. But then ever since I've been back here coaching, then of course I've taken a much bigger interest in the amateur youth level of it.
Yeah. What do you think? Because like you said, we've had, lots of hockey guys obviously on so far, and Hockey's pretty self-explanatory in Edmonton. I mean, with our weather, and the Oilers are just absolutely everywhere. Like, it's something that young kids are exposed to, whether they like it or not, in a lot of ways in the city, right? So it's interesting to hear for something like basketball, where, you know, it's a little harder to maybe get that initial exposure, you know, how that happened for you. But what about the game specifically? Like, you know, you're sitting in the basement, you got the pizza, you're watching Vince Carter. I think that anniversary was just recently, so I was seeing those highlights again. Yeah. And I mean, it does just hit you, like the athleticism. You know, again, I don't know basketball like you do, but it opens your eyes.
For sure.
Can you maybe just go a little deeper in terms of like what specifically really grabbed your attention about it?
Yeah, it's a good question. And right around that time, the Raptors started to be good too.
Yeah.
So Vince was really exciting. I was into the Oilers back then too. And the Oilers were kind of always in the playoffs. And I don't know whether it was the athleticism or the kind of the narratives, but the Raptors, something about it kind of stuck.
Yeah.
And I started getting into it and following it and playing a little bit, and my friends were getting into it. And I think now basketball's actually quite popular in Edmonton.
Yeah.
It's taking off, I'd say.
Yeah.
There's a lot more facilities getting built because there's just not enough courts. So there was a couple new facilities that are just being built and being opened because a couple people around town have realized there's just not enough space for all these kids to play. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot more, kind of something that started in the States maybe 10, 15 years ago, is a lot more what they call club basketball. Some people call it AAU down in the States, which stands for something like Amateur Athletic Union, I think. But here it's just known as club basketball, which is similar stuff in hockey. And that's really taken off, where there used to just be a couple clubs, because there used to just be school basketball, and then outside of that, there's like the provincial team, play for Team Alberta in the summer, you go to nationals, but that's it. But then there was nothing else kind of in the spring, summer, off season. Mm-hmm. But then a couple guys started opening these clubs. There's not a huge amount of barriers to entry. You get some good local kids to sign up to be on your team. You put them in some tournaments. You go to Calgary, you go to the States, you go to all these different places. So that's really exploding, and I think driving a lot of the demand for more facilities. And I'd say social media has been a big part of kind of increasing the popularity of basketball in Edmonton, because before you would have to like physically be in the gym if you want to know anything about what happened in the game against Harry Ainley and Strathcona. Mm-hmm. But now there's, like, I was at the city finals last night, and there's this little cottage industry of guys and girls who film games and make little highlight reels, mixtapes, whatever you want to call them. Yeah. And there was like a dozen people filming the game last night on the baseline. Wow. And then they all have their little social media account, and then they all post a little highlight reel and try to go mini viral in Edmonton. Yeah. So you don't have to physically be there anymore. You can track it in the same way that you can track college or pro. Right. Like, you can watch the highlight reel of the Raptors just as quickly as you can watch the highlight reel of the city finals from last night. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, it's definitely been popping up in hockey too, and you have a lot of young kids that have the ability to understand social media maybe a little better than our generation, and they get the camera, they come to the games, and you know, to your earlier point of being connected on a deeper level. The ones that seem to really be doing well are the ones that are kind of right in the age group of the people they're filming, because they've got like actual friends out there.
For sure.
Mm-hmm. So they're going the extra mile to get good content, and not only, you know, start a small business, which some of them are, but it's like, man, I want to deliver a cool product for my buddy on this team. Yeah. Right.
And now there's like kids in junior high getting mixtapes made for them.
Right.
Which is like, there's like the best grade 8 in the city. It's like I could tell you who it is, but it's crazy that that's become like a thing, because people for a long time were kind of jokingly, I'm not sure how much they do it in hockey, but in basketball, there's a big thing where there's rankings of age groups. So I'm sure a similar thing exists in lots of other sports, but in basketball, they rank like the best grade 12s, the best grade 11s, the best grade 10s. And now it's like, the best grade 4s. It's like,
it's getting a little young. Yeah.
It gets a bit
out of control.
It gets
best
a bit
kindergarten.
Crazy. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the best 5-year-old in the world.
Right.
It gets to be a little bit crazy, because it's also, some of the people doing these rankings don't really know what they're doing. They're just kind of putting out lists so they can go viral or kind of get their post shared and
More content. Yeah.
for sure. It's a tough balance between actually evaluating and developing players and just like driving content.
You also find too, maybe if like someone doesn't subscribe to like that service, then maybe that person might not get ranked, stuff like that.
It was funny. I was having a discussion with the guy who was ranking Canadian high school football players. And he put out some ranking of like, the top 100 Canadian high school football players. And I looked at the list. I'm like, because Harry Ainley High School in Edmonton is a powerhouse right now. They've been winning provincial titles. They went unbeaten this year. For the last 5 to 7 years, they're like, they play other high schools in Edmonton and beat them 60-0.
Right.
Like, it's not really even close. They have all these Team Alberta players. So then I saw this top 100 list, and there wasn't a single guy from Harry Ainley.
Really?
And I was like, that seems weird. I'm like, there's like none of these guys are in your top 100. Then there was guys who were on like other teams who were losing 60-0. So I'm like, this seems a bit odd. And I talked to him and he's like, I only rank guys who essentially pay. So it's like you have to pay to get on the list.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like, you have to pay to be evaluated. So he said, I prefaced it by saying, these are the top 100 guys that I evaluated.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, why aren't you evaluating everyone? Because they haven't paid the fee.
So there's
I'm
a big asterisk there.
Yeah, there's
Or
no
unless he's selling to
association.
different- Yeah, instead of selling to like the coaches, I guess or the recruiters, he's selling to the
kids.
kids.
Yeah.
Directly to them.
Yeah.
And it's only $10 and everyone can afford $10, sure, but it's not really that objective of a top 100 list.
right.
It's like top 100 guys that paid me,
Right.
which is, I don't really think that's the best way to do it.
Yeah.
But that person is putting the time and crunching the tape and doing evaluations, so he thinks it's a business, so he's trying to get paid.
For sure. Well, and kind of on that same thought, in terms of the recruiting process, so not necessarily rankings, I mean, they are obviously tied together to some degree. Do you think that having more video footage for these young players has been helpful to the recruiting process? Obviously, that example you just gave is probably like a detrimental one. But in terms of, like Canadians being able to actually get noticed by American schools, do you think that's opened the door a little bit? Are there some positives there?
For sure, because before you can't expect some scout from college ABC in the US to be coming up to the Edmonton City Finals of high school basketball.
Right.
It just, unless there's Michael Jordan 2.0 happens to be playing in that, which is rare because it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So it's for sure helped open some doors for kids who otherwise wouldn't be seen. There's also this kind of interesting system in basketball called prep schools, which is not quite high school and not quite college. It was originally meant as kind of like a 1-year post-grad bridge in between high school and college, because there's a weird thing in Canada. Kids who graduate high school are typically a year younger than American kids who graduate high school. So a lot of Canadian kids would go down to American prep schools after they graduate Canadian high school and do a year of kind of exposures and trying to get looks to American colleges. Mm-hmm. And now they've started to open up prep schools in Edmonton and Alberta and Canada, all over the place. So it's become a big thing. And now there's like kids in high school going to these prep schools. And there's one of my good friends runs one of them in Edmonton. And it's a great way because they, rather than just playing local high schools, they go to tournaments in Toronto. They go to tournaments in Vegas. They go to tournaments in Florida and get these kids in front of coaches, scouts who would never come up here otherwise, and get eyeballs on kids who otherwise would never have the chance.
Right.
And not just with social media, but also with these kind of traveling clubs, traveling schools and teams that get kids in front of people who just otherwise wouldn't see them.
Right. So do these prep schools run out of like a traditional school? Like, is there I'm assuming there still has to be some sort of a school component.
Yeah, and they're all a little bit different. Some do online schooling. Some run through, there was one that was running through Vimy a couple years ago. They all do it a little bit differently. Some have their own kind of internal tutors and do it kind of on like the private side. But yeah, because there's still, a lot of these kids are still high school age, there has to still be the academic component. They just all balance that a little bit differently.
Right. Yeah, it frees up some time for travel and stuff
For
like
sure,
that.
yeah. And like similar to like the academy model, you do your school in the morning, you play sports in the afternoon.
Right. Yeah.
You find a type of clips are kind of like I've seen some where it's just like it's a highlight reel, but it's like close. Like it's kind of like you don't see the full picture of like how this play developed, and
Like an ISO shot.
For sure.
they really are. It's
Well,
like,
and that's the funny thing is because when you talk to a coach will ask a player for their full game tape. They don't want to see your 1 minute highlight reel because you can splice and dice a 1 minute highlight reel to make you look like Michael Jordan.
you'd have 20 turnovers, but
Exactly.
you have a couple yeah.
But the coach wants to watch your entire game, wants to see how you interact with teammates, wants to see how you interact with coaches, how you play defense, all the little things, because just like in any sport, in hockey, lots of people can score goals. In basketball, lots of people can score. Like in golf, lots of guys can hit the ball far. But it's all the little things that really separate the highest, the 1%ers, because, or like the mental aspect, you need to like talk to these kids' coaches and see what are they like in the classroom. How do they interact with others? How do they get along with their teammates? That's the stuff that really makes the biggest difference, because there's so many guys who I've seen, and I'm sure you guys have seen in any sport. There's lots of very high-end, talented, skilled athletes in this city, in this province, in this country. But how many of them actually go and make money being pros?
Yeah.
It's a very short list.
Yeah.
And there's kids who might not have been identified as the absolute superstar growing up, but whether it's the mental aspect or some sort of drive commitment, they became the one that actually made a career out of it, even though there might have been a kid on their team growing up who had more points or more skilled or tall or big or stronger. But it's the smaller things that really separate at the highest levels, I think.
Right.
Yeah,
Having
there was
that
a
full package.
Yeah, there was a coach. I can't remember who it was, but when he went recruiting, he'd actually want to see them play a tough game where he'd actually maybe lose.
Yep.
Because then he wanted to see like how did he react, like how was he talking to his teammates, how
Totally.
was he talking to his coach, like even how was his interaction with his parents after.
Absolutely.
Though yeah, those are the human characteristics that are so key, because you're gonna have this kid for 4 more years, or 4 to 5 years. You need him to be able to be a teammate. You know?
Well, it's funny though, because the 4 to 5 year comment, now the transfer portal
yeah,
in the NCAA, and now it's become kind of there's a transfer portal of high school sports. Like kids are much less kind of married to a program than they ever have been before. It's like, okay, I'm going to this school, I'm here for 4 years, I'm locked in.
Yeah.
Now it's like, if I get benched one game, I'll leave.
Yeah.
And like that happens in youth sports. It happens in, like, they see pros doing it. They think, well, if I don't like this, I'm not going to battle through adversity. I'm just going to leave and find someone who's going to promise me more playing time, promise me this or that. And then if I don't like it again, I'll leave again.
Yeah. Everybody's a free agent now.
Yeah.
I mean, technically, I did the same thing in college.
There you go.
I did
And
transfer, but it was more so this one I knew I was gonna. I kind of went in knowing I was gonna transfer at some point.
Well, and I don't think it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't like the way you're being treated, legitimately, or if you're being treated poorly, or if you
Maybe
were
go to a higher
promised,
level. I wanted to go to a higher level. That's
Sure.
that's
or
what
if
it
you
was,
were promised something and they didn't
couldn't deliver,
deliver.
yeah.
They say, oh, you're going to be this, you're going to have this apartment, you're going to have this, you're going to be on this team. Then you get there and it's just not at all what was promised. I have no issue with people like going somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you want more opportunity and you think it's going to be better somewhere, then take the risk and go.
Yeah. But there's a balance there, right? Because like you said, if you're never having to go through any adversity and you're just able to pull the chute so easily,
Yeah.
I mean, it definitely feels like the pendulum has swung
For sure.
too far in the other direction. I see it in hockey. It's really interesting to hear that it's almost exactly the same in basketball,
Completely.
which is not surprising, but like it's just refreshing to hear that it's not just an isolated hockey issue.
Totally.
But yeah, it feels like now we've gone to the point where there's a little too much choice. And again, like you said, there's legitimate reasons where it's not a good fit.
Sure.
You can't be, you don't want a young athlete to be stuck in a bad situation for
course.
4 years. But at the same time, if it's just one little hurdle and it's like, hey, I'm out of here, hit the eject button, it's a little too easy.
It's a tough balance, and I think I would agree mostly that it's the pendulum swung a bit too far.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if it's going to calibrate in the middle. It seems like it's going to be a hard thing to put back in the box because there's just so many more options. There's so many more things available to these kids. It's not just, okay, well, I'm at this school, I'm committed, I'm going to stay here for 3 years, 4 years, whatever it might be. There's other local options, there's other provincial options, there's other Canadian options, there's other American options. And if you have the resources or the means, or if you're really, really that good, then someone will find the resources for you.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's always going to be someone knocking on your door saying, oh, well, I saw you got benched this game. Why don't you consider coming over here?
Right.
So it's a tough, I don't want to call it a business, but it's a tough business.
Yeah.
And everyone's,
now, yeah.
for sure it is. There's a lot of money on the line. It's not just for the love of the game. And people are making a good living off of youth sports. And it's a business.
Yeah.
It's just, when is too young too young? Because I was talking to
For sure.
PGA Tour. He's a swing instructor, I guess. But he's like, I don't really care what someone does at like 12, 13. Like, someone's going to change. Like, I care more like 15, 16 when you're growing and you're much bigger. Because, when you're grade 4 or something.
For
like,
sure.
You might grow or you might stay the same. Like,
Right.
you have no idea.
Yeah, and it's, like I was saying, like, it's driving lower and lower ages. And again, it's hard to put it back in the box once that starts happening. It's hard to tell people, okay, that's enough. We're going to stop recruiting junior high kids.
I don't think it'll ever go back in the box.
Exactly.
It can't. Once it's open, it's open.
Exactly. And like, once social media, Pandora's box has been opened, and once people have found out that you can make money off youth sports, you're not going to flip it on its head and just turn it back to this pure idealistic version of old school stuff.
Might be able to try. I mean, like Bill Belichick's trying to do something like that at UNC, where he kind of wants to make it a 4-year. Or he's trying to encourage guys to stay the 4 years. It sounds like he wants to
The
develop,
process.
Yeah, he wants to develop. I'm going to teach you how to be a pro. Like, you're going to be here for 4 years to do it. It's not so much about. Obviously, he wants to win, but
of course,
he's thinking more, I think, development-wise, and he's trying to bring that back. It sounds like.
Yeah, and we'll see how successful he is with that.
Yeah,
because he hasn't recruited high school kids ever. I don't know if he ever worked
I think
in college.
he might have someone doing it for. My guess is he's not traveling. Like,
not as much. I think Mike Lombardi is his like GM.
You could get his girlfriend to do it.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't think anyone would complain about that.
Yeah, he'll get a lot of recruits.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a tough thing to kind of put it back in the box and get kids to kind of commit to a different mind frame than what they've seen around them growing up. Yeah. You should just commit to this program and be there for 4 years, but everything they've seen growing up is the opposite of that.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's just where we are.
Yeah. And I mean, the other downside I've been kind of seeing with the business side of it moving younger and younger is it's forcing younger and younger kids to specialize in one sport earlier and earlier.
Yep.
And I know obviously you spend the majority of your time with at least coaching with the high school guys, but just curious on, what you're seeing in the basketball world in terms of that. Like, is it getting to the point where, you got grade 4, grade 5, grade 6 kids that, can't explore other sports because they already feel at that age that they need to be doing, basketball year round?
Yeah, it's funny because there used to be a lot more. I remember growing up, everyone played multiple sports.
Yeah.
Everyone played soccer, everyone played a bit of hockey, everyone played a bit of this, bit of that, bit of school sports. A lot of my friends, we all played multiple sports at school. But I think there's definitely a lot more specialization now because all of these sports you can play year round. It used to be like, no, well, basketball is during the winter and there's no basketball in the summer. So you would play soccer in the summer. And in the fall, you would play volleyball because that's just the sport you play in the fall. But now because there's teams and traveling and coaches and trainers that can get you into programs for a cost year round, then some kids are like, oh, well, if I want to be at the best school and get a scholarship, then I have to play year round. And these are, it goes younger and younger, under 7, under 9, under 11. All these kids are focusing more and more on one sport, which I think it's good to be a well-rounded athlete. Like a lot of the most athletic, well-rounded basketball kids I've coached were also football players.
Yeah.
Because they're athletes in a different way. They're not just super specialized, super focused. They know they're just more comfortable in their own body.
Yeah.
And they are just they're used to being coached. They're used to having plays drawn up, and it's just a different mindset. And they're not just so singularly focused. They're athletes, and they just want to play sports.
Yeah.
Well, it's a common theme with like really good football and basketball players like LeBron played
Football.
receiver, in
he
high
was
school.
very good.
Allen Iverson, I believe, was
he was
a
quarterback.
great quarterback. There's a bunch, and even the other way too. Like Antonio Gates in football was a great basketball player. Do you find a lot of kids now, even in Edmonton, are starting to lose that football and basketball kind of?
For sure, there's definitely not as much. Like we had one kid on our JP team this year who also played football. Last year we had one of our best players was also a football player, but he went down. He was in grade 11 last year. He went down to a high school in Alabama to play football. And now he's got like 10 D1 offers.
Wow.
And he wasn't going to get those 10 D1 offers playing football in Edmonton. And he's obviously he's a wide receiver, obviously a very good football player. But he didn't even play basketball in grade 10 for us at JP on either team. And then grade 11 steps in and was like one of our best players. Wow. He's just like such a good athlete. He's like 6'1", could dunk, could do everything.
Wow.
And now he's going to go D1 in football and maybe play pro someday.
Yeah.
But it's definitely being lost in terms of multi-sport athletes. Like I was saying, at Harry Ainley, they have a great football program. I don't know if any of those football kids play basketball. I can't think of any.
That's crazy because in the States it seems to be like a thing. Like either you play basketball and baseball or basketball and football or something like that. Yeah.
Well, and sometimes even if you have a kid that wants to, like you said, if the seasons are constantly getting bigger and bigger, you get to a point where you have coaches, who are saying, hey, like if you want to be on this team, I don't want you also playing this sport. I want all of your focus right here.
Yep.
And I mean, at the high school level, I'm sure you can start to justify that. But again, when it's happening like junior high,
Younger,
elementary, it's like,
tough.
Come on, let those kids still explore. And I think the saddest part is, and everybody's different, but and we work with elementary kids each week, and they're awesome, right? But they're young kids; they're still figuring it out, and they're not necessarily making that decision themselves at that age, right? Like if someone's saying, "Hey, you need to specialize in hockey," it's usually not coming from the kid at that age. They're still looking to explore, figure out what they like,
and for a lot of kids at that age, they want to hang out with their friends.
Totally,
and it's tough because with the proliferation of club sports and travel sports and all this, you see the proliferation of very involved parents.
Yeah.
And that can sometimes be good and sometimes not as good, because they can get very involved in a positive way and sometimes not the most positive way.
Right.
So, and it can become very political. It can become very competitive. A lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that never makes the light of day. And because they want their kid to be on the best team and have the most opportunities and hopefully get a scholarship. Like I'm sure you guys saw that story about that Edmonton youth soccer team and the coach who scammed them out of all that money, stole their $50K or something.
Yeah.
And it was like an under 9 team that was going to Vegas.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, what? I'm like, oh yeah, we want to get seen by NCAA coaches. And one of my good friends is really involved in youth soccer, and he's like, under 9? There's not any NCAA coaches there.
Right.
Wait 6 years,
right,
and there might be.
Yeah.
But these parents get sold a bill of goods saying, oh, we're going down to Vegas for this big tournament. There's going to be all these scouts and coaches there.
Right.
And you get there, like, oh, there was all the scouts and coaches there. They just didn't talk to me because I'm 9 years old.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, it's a bit wild, and
But then every now and then you'll see a viral clip of some like 11-year-old where they're like, oh yeah, we've signed to a letter of intent though, so they almost destroy that too.
well, or they'd be like, or they got an offer.
Yeah. Something weird like that.
Yeah.
But that offer can always
Or like baby Gronk got an offer.
Yeah, stuff like that.
It's like it's just like PR to get, or like sometimes like in basketball and in American football, you can sometimes identify kids like at a very young age, and in hockey too, I'm sure. Like another good story from when I was in Toronto, when Connor McDavid was in the GTHL, 15 years old, I think he got, just before he got exceptional status to go play for Erie. There was like a big front page story in the Toronto Star about Connor McDavid, the next Sidney Crosby. So we had him in studio when he was 14, 15. He came with his dad.
Wow.
Met him, and he was already so polished.
Yeah.
And he was very clearly like already ready to be the next one.
Yeah.
And he has clearly proven that in 15 years since then. But that's obviously the exception.
Right.
Mm-hmm. When there's a kid that young, that locked in, that skilled, that ready to be the next one. And in other sports, sometimes there's a 6'8", 13-year-old
Sure.
in basketball. And like, okay, he's probably going to do well.
Yeah.
But then like the next 5 years of getting him into college, they're getting pushed and pulled from all directions. Oh, come be on this team, come be on this team, come be on this team. I'm going to get you to the NBA. And it can be difficult. And I'm sure it happens in hockey too, where there's like some 14-year-old superstar and he's getting pushed and pulled in all different directions to go to different teams and clubs and travel this and travel here for a low price of whatever.
Yeah.
It can be tough.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and that's an interesting point too that Matt brought up in terms of, the variable of some of these commitments. Like they are outliers, but you get those early offers or commitments. What is there an age limit? Like, can you literally be an NCAA school and commit someone who's 9?
You can make an offer at any age, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, but there's a certain age where the athlete has to reach out to the school versus a coach calling the athlete.
Right.
I think
And there's like windows of
limit.
time when...
Signing periods, stuff like that.
And also like contact periods, they call it, when like coaches can only, I just know the basketball context, NCAA coaches can only be in the gym watching athletes during certain times of the year, when they're called open contact periods, when you can physically be there, you can call, text these kids, whatever. And then there's funny videos of like when these open periods start, it's like midnight on June 1st, and there's some superstar recruit, and he looks at his phone, and there's like 1,000 messages at 12:0001 because the open period starts.
Just blowing up.
Exactly. Totally. Like, oh, hey, Coach Belichick. Oh, hey, Coach whoever.
Right.
It's a tricky business.
Yeah.
The one thing with scholarships too is like, I guess basketball and football are different because you can get 100% scholarships, but like usually the amount of money you're going to spend sometimes will not equate
Right.
to what the scholarship offer will be, especially if you're starting at like 9 years old, $10,000-$20,000 a year.
And it's the one thing about basketball is it's generally not been as expensive as hockey to play at the highest level, really to play at any level. Historically, you need a pair of shoes and you just show up.
Sure.
Which is one nice thing, but the more and more there's become these traveling teams, the more expensive it becomes.
Right.
And that's obviously a barrier to entry for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily as much of a, if you're the best kid in the province, you can probably find a way to not have to pay quite as much. But it's an expensive thing now. And there's unfortunately kids who are good enough, but don't necessarily have the means to get themselves the opportunities.
Yeah.
Or don't have the family support in other ways.
Yeah.
There's definitely kids that are like on the brink that'll fall through the cracks, so they won't be able to get that extra
For sure.
exposure. Like if you're that, especially if you're a late bloomer or something, you just won't get that chance to bloom late.
Yeah. Yeah, which is tricky. I had that kind of noted. Like, I think you're very accurate in terms of like the pendulum is swung, and it's going to be difficult to see it going back. Do you think there's any sort of scenario where, because you're seeing it a little bit in hockey now, where just the cost of some of these academy models has gotten so high? There's still a lot of value, like they're getting the most draft picks to the WHL draft.
Sure.
Like there's still a lot of incentive for people to find the money to try to put their child into the best possible league to take the next step forward. But the reality is there's some people that just cannot pay those fees. And, with the economy and everything that's been going on, prices are going up. People seem to be making less. Economy's more difficult. There are more and more kids that are coming back to the more traditional minor hockey models.
For sure.
Do you think that, just economic forces could eventually be part of that equation that swings it back?
Absolutely. There's one club a basketball club in Edmonton, and they don't do as much travel. They focus a lot more on skill development, and they've built a really good program recently, and they get their kids locked in, and their kids don't transfer as much, and really good coaches, and they get them kind of in through a feeder system at a young age, but they're all pretty bought in, and they're all seem to be going in the right direction, and it's not as expensive because they don't travel as much, and they don't claim to be a club that's going to travel as much and go to all these different places, but they just focus on the kind of nuts and bolts, and they've had good success locally and getting some kids into colleges. It's funny because the big difference that I can notice, or identify between local basketball and hockey is there's how many kids would you say from Edmonton every year that get drafted into the dub?
Honestly, I don't pay attention to that enough, but I feel like it's definitely a little less than it used to be. There's still a few.
But is it like 10, 20, 50, 100?
I mean, I would guess like kind of maybe in the 20-ish, which
Yeah.
it would have been higher, but there's just the American
Yep.
programs getting
Yep.
better. I mean, the number of Canadians in the NHL has been dropping.
Yep.
So it's still like, you still hear about several kids
Sure.
that do, but it's definitely less than it used to be.
And then like in basketball, there's local university opportunities and local college opportunities.
Right.
But there's very few in terms of raw numbers of kids from Edmonton, from Alberta, going to the States and playing college basketball.
Mm-hmm.
And I would equate college basketball to kind of playing in the WHL.
Sure.
Because playing for the Bears, hockey or basketball, is not quite the same, I would say, than playing like WHL is more so a path to the pros, hopefully.
Yeah.
NCAA, hockey or basketball is hopefully a path to the pros. There's, in terms of raw numbers, very few kids locally that actually go to the States for basketball. Right. And there's lots of kids go play ACAC, which is like Concordia, Nate, Kings, those sorts of places. And that's still like a good outcome. You can still get a scholarship, get your schooling paid for. The best kids in the city, like we had a kid on our team last year, JP, who's on the Bears now. And like but then you're on an all-star team.
Right.
You're with the absolute best players, not just in Edmonton, not just in Alberta, but they recruit nationally, they recruit internationally.
Right.
So it becomes, you go from being the best player, one of the best players in the city, to maybe not even playing.
Right.
Which can be a big adjustment, and plus you have to do university courses and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So it's tough. But yeah.
What's the percentage still of, you mentioned that pipeline, high school to university, especially at the local area, versus some of these clubs popping up? Is it high school predominantly still that feeder to colleges, or
yeah, like there
what's that
is
number?
still, I'd say every tier 1 high school basketball team in Edmonton has at least one kid that can play college,
Mm-hmm.
whether that's ACAC or U Sport. And there's some like tier 2 kids that can play college. And they mostly feed into, local colleges, local universities. A lot of the kids that go into these prep programs aspire to go to the States, whether it's D2, whether it's JUCO, whether it's D1, whatever it might be. Or they just want to, let's say they had a decent high school career in Edmonton, but they didn't quite get there was a kid that went to Shep last year, very good local player, did a year of prep this year, and then now got a scholarship to play at McMaster. After grade 12 at Shep, he didn't have that offer. Right. But he did a year of prep, got in front of more coaches, and now got a scholarship to McMaster.
Yeah.
So what do you find? What in your opinion, what do you think is kind of the thing holding Edmonton back with basketball? Like, is it the fact that it's a little new still, or potentially like size? Like, I know just for me when I was in university, like girls volleyball, for example, I'm in the training room. There's girls that are like 6'2", 6'3", 6'4", and like in Edmonton, I'm like, I've never even seen a girl this tall before.
Yeah, I wouldn't say anything's really holding back Edmonton's basketball scene. It's just maybe the only thing would be like geography. And like we're just far away from where the big time coaches are. We have to travel to them. They rarely travel here. Right. Like last year there was one kid from Edmonton. He went to high school in Little Duke, then went to a prep program, and he's now at Penn State. He got a D1 scholarship to Penn State.
Wow.
And there was coaches coming here for him.
Yeah.
But that's definitely the exception. It's not the norm because it's once every 5 years or so there's an Edmonton kid that goes D1. But it's pretty rare. A lot of the best players will leave even before. Like there was a really good kid that was gonna go into grade 10 at Harry Ainley this year in basketball, but he went to a prep program in Iowa, and he's super good. He was on Team Alberta last year, and he might be on the national team soon, and who knows what else. But like the real high end, the 1% of the 1%, those kids get identified almost similar to WHL, like 15, right around that age, and go to play elsewhere if they're really that cream of the crop.
Basketball rules in Alberta, like is there shot clock
Yep.
Okay. Because, you know, like, it's different in the States, too, different state to state, where sometimes there's a 30, sometimes there's none.
Yeah, it's funny.
kinda
Canada
weird.
plays all what's called FIBA rules,
Oh, okay.
which is like international basketball rules. So everyone in the world plays FIBA rules except the U.S. The U.S. has different rule. In college, they have a 35-second shot clock, but every state has their own high school rules. So there are some high schools in the States where there's no shot clock, which is
Kind of wild.
is wild because then there'll be some coaches who are like, oh, I'm going to be strategic and just hold the ball for 9 minutes.
Sure. Yeah.
And it ruins the game. No one gets better. No one develops. I think it's bad for the game. We have a 24-second shot clock, which is pretty quick because in NCAA it's 35 seconds.
Wow. Yeah. It's a big difference.
And like it really moves the game along. Yeah. So yeah, we all use FIBA rules. So it's like if you watch Canada in the Olympics in basketball and you were paying close enough attention to understand the nuance of the rules, those are the rules we use. So we have like 5 fouls and you're out. NBA has 6 fouls and you're out. So there's little differences like that, but generally the FIBA rules are pretty good.
Nice.
What do you think the key is to keeping those? You mentioned the 1% of the 1%. What do you think the key might be to keep those kids either in Edmonton or in our country?
It's tough because it's the same thing as, I'd say the same thing in hockey. Why would a kid who's good enough to get drafted into the dub, why would he say no to the dub? Mm-hmm. He's like, okay, well, I'm going to go play for the Brandon Wheat Kings and then hopefully get drafted into the NHL in 3 years. Yeah. Same thing for these kids. If they're the 1% of the 1% and they get an offer to go play at some high-end prep school in Iowa, or there's a lot of good basketball prep schools in Ontario too, why would they say no if it's their best path, hopefully, towards going D1, maybe going pro, doing these things? So it's really hard to keep them here without, it's kind of a chicken and the egg thing. It's like, without seeing more kids graduate out of high school here and go D1 directly from that. Right. Like there was one kid who went to JP 6-7 years ago, went straight from high school right to D1. He started at Valparaiso and then went to Iowa. But that's super rare that he went right out of like Edmonton High School right into a D1 program. There's almost always something in the middle, or the fact that he actually finished grade 12 here and got a D1 offer, but he was also on Team Canada national team. Like he was identified, but had very strong local roots and didn't want to go just yet.
How young is the national team for basketball?
There are, I think, under 16 is the youngest bracket for national. Maybe, I think it's 16, not 15.
Because I know with like European countries, like they're smaller, so if you did move a kid, it'd only be like an hour from home. Here, the country's just so wide, and with only 30 plus million people, whatever, it's not huge. To move a kid to like Toronto from Edmonton, it's like,
and that's one of the tough things with the size of Canada is identifying talent, and then getting them in front of the right people, and because like there's Canada basketball like ID camps, they call them, where there's one in Edmonton, there's one in Calgary, one in Vancouver, where okay, sign up and there will be national team coaches here, but if you have a bad day, they might not like you.
Right.
But the absolute cream of the crop are already identified by that point. But it's tough because Canada's so huge and each province kind of does their own basketball thing, and there's provincials, but there's not nationals.
Right.
So next weekend, high school basketball provincials start in a bit of a new format this year. But the champion doesn't then go play BC and Saskatchewan and Manitoba. They just win Alberta, and that's it.
That's it, yeah.
So then it's these provincial teams in the summer where you can there's U15 and U17 Team Alberta, and they go to nationals. So they go, then that's when Team Alberta plays Team BC. But then, of course, there's politics with that too.
Sure, yeah.
And some guys don't even want to go, so don't even try out. So you can never avoid politics in these things, but the provincial teams going to nationals is oftentimes a great way for them to get some exposure to coaches and people that wouldn't otherwise see them.
Now, is there any development within the provincial and national programs? Because I know that's a big topic in hockey right now, because typically in the past it's been you make your Team Canada, you come together for a few days before, it's a couple practices, you got to learn how to work within the systems with the new coach and your new teammates, and away you go and play your tournament. Where the American national hockey program has a big development component where those guys are spending years together sometimes before they're getting into those tournament situations. Just curious how the basketball
is pretty similar, actually, because there's school basketball, there's club basketball, and then if you make the provincial team, there's like a 1-week training camp, and then you go to nationals.
Yeah.
And then you play 5 games in 5 days, and then that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't really develop because in those 5 days you got to figure out a system.
You just got to play.
Yeah.
And
You're playing to win.
Exactly. So it's tough. There is not really that much development year-round from provincial and national teams for a variety of different reasons. There have been different models that have been tried previously. Like when I was in high school, Canada Basketball started something called Northern Elite Development Academy, I think it was called, and it was in Hamilton, and it was meant to be like a year-round development academy. And there was a kid from Shep who I was in grade 12, he was in grade 10. He went to the academy for like grade 12/grade 13, and then he went to Gonzaga and went D1. And he was like very good, identified, very young age, very good player. But that doesn't really exist anymore. It's more so the kind of prep for-profit model where kids get the year-round training, year-round exposure, and there's a lot of these academies, for lack of a better word, that have opened up that are well-funded, and they have multiple teams, and they have great facilities, and that's the closest thing, but there's no like real top-down year-round Basketball Alberta training or Canada basketball training.
Do you think that if there would be some positives to that? Like even just retaining some of those kids that do leave and go to prep schools in the States?
There would for sure be some positives to it. And just in terms of kind of developing a national system, a national like playing identity, because like Maddie was saying, there's a lot of these smaller European countries that you can tell they play a certain way. And because they've been taught that certain way from a very young age.
Yeah.
Spain, for example, comes to mind. In soccer and basketball and all these things, they all know the national system because they've all been learning it and all been bought into it from such a young age that they all know exactly what to do and how to communicate. Or a lot of the like Croatia and Serbia are really into basketball, and they all start their kids in these academies at a young age, and they all play together at a super high level from a young age and get used to playing with one another. And that makes such a big difference when you're in these one-off tournaments, is just being comfortable together and being used to playing with one another. So there would for sure be advantages to doing it. Logistically, I don't know how it would be possible. Again, it's kind of putting the cat back in the box. Now that there's been such a proliferation of club and for-profit business model of these clubs and other things, it's hard for the provincial organization to kind of step in and overrule them.
Right.
Because it would be at the same time of season. Like, okay, you're now going to be in this full summer Basketball Alberta Academy. Like, oh, but I want to go travel down to Vegas for this tournament with my club.
Right.
So it's a tough sell.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to think like the American hockey program, like they kind of are able to circumvent that a little bit by, again, the quality of the competition. So, you got to move. I think they were in Ann Arbor. I don't know if that's still where they're centered. But
they play in the
USHL.
So they're playing in a league.
Right. Yeah. So they've got games, which obviously is such a huge part of it. Like there's that balance of, okay, more development is good, but at the same time, you still got to play not only play games, but play competitive games throughout that period of time.
Well, and that's something that some of these clubs and prep programs have found too, is finding good competition.
Yeah.
Because anyone can start up an academy. You get some kids to show up, you get some kids to pay, you get some kids to commit, but then you need to find... Because in basketball, at least, you can't, like a high school team can't play against a prep program.
Right.
Because that's like a eligibility situation. Yeah. So, okay, where are we going to find a good game? Right. You can find games, but are they competitive? Are we getting better playing in these games? So they travel a lot to these tournaments. Right. But then sometimes you'll travel to one of these tournaments and get smoked because you're playing a bunch of kids that are about to be in the NBA.
Right.
Because you're playing like the best program in the States.
Right.
So it's like, okay, well, we want competition, but not that much. So but then back here, you want competition, but then you're just so much better than everyone because you have an all-star team of local kids.
Right.
So it's a tricky balance.
Yeah, for sure. Do you find like on the social media, going back to the social media, kind of blending this in with the recruiting that we've been talking about as well, again, just a hockey analogy. So like it's super trendy, these guys on social media that have all these crazy stick handling moves.
Yep.
Right? Like Pavel Barber and some of these guys, right? And it's awesome stuff. Like it's super cool. But it doesn't necessarily translate into, as you were saying earlier, all those intangibles of being a good hockey player that can actually compete, on a team and at the highest level. The kids are very drawn to it, but sometimes you are fighting that influence where, they just want to practice the Michigan for the whole practice versus actually doing hockey drills, right?
It's absolutely the same thing in basketball. Like there's a lot of, because there's similar thing to hockey, I'm sure, where there's guys who are coaches, then there's guys who are trainers.
Yeah.
Some guys just train skills. Some guys coach the team.
Yeah.
Different things. You can go to trainer for this private tutor lesson, but then you go to your coach for the team practice.
Right.
In basketball, it's the same thing. There's trainers, they'll just be teaching you a bunch of 1-on-0 moves, so you look really good when he posts the highlight reel of you deking out the air.
Right.
But then you go play in a team concept, and you're being asked to like run systems and understand concepts and kind of think on your feet.
Yeah.
And there's 10 guys on the court, 5 of them trying to defend you, and some guys aren't prepared and trained and ready to kind of face live competition because they're just used to playing against the air.
Right.
Yeah, unless you're in ISO all the time for some unknown reason, then
right. And then
ball,
even you see guys, like the higher the level gets, you might be able to do ISO at a lower level and just kind of blow by guys and just kind of shoot over everyone.
Right.
But then teams will scout you, and then teams will develop a defense that can kind of prepare for that.
Right.
And like I was at the city semifinals and the city finals this week for high school basketball, and there was a kid in the city semifinals. He was on Team Canada. He's like an amazing player, but struggled in the game because the other team had scouted him very well, and they knew exactly how to defend him. And he couldn't get to the things, he couldn't make the plays he was used to making because they were so ready for everything he did.
Right.
And the team lost. And he's arguably, the best player in the city, in the province, one of the best players in the country. But he was just so well scouted that he couldn't quite bring his team over the line.
Oh. It's the old strategy. Don't let that person beat you. If they're the best best player on the team.
Take that guy away, and then the rest will work its way out.
Yeah,
double
team,
coaching adjustment, and that's just what didn't happen. Obviously, it was an adjustment that wasn't made then.
And it's tough because like when you have a superstar on your team, tell him to not shoot and tell him to not handle the ball. It's like, well, that's what he's going to do, and that's how you've got to that point. So it's hard to take the ball out of their hands and tell them to not be themselves. You hope that he can make every shot, but sometimes it's not possible.
How much pre-scouting as a high school staff do you guys do in terms of
Quite
either film prep or in person?
In all the high school gyms, there's like a RoboCam that films all the games.
Okay.
And then all of the film gets fed through this web system called Huddle.
Yeah.
HUDL.
Okay.
You might use it for other sports. Yeah. And then it gives us, like, we live track stats to make sure that the people doing the stats aren't messing up, which we had a couple times this year. The guys doing the scoreboard messed up. And then we watch film. We watch it with the players. We watch it just us coaches. We look for tendencies. We pre-scout teams that we're about to play. Okay, watch out for number 10. He does this. Watch out for number 8. He does this. So there's quite a bit of pre-game, pre-scouting analysis.
And so on the development, like there's a bit of a debate out there in terms of, those individual skills, and you guys were saying ISO in terms of like basketball, right? Or one-on-one maybe in hockey.
Yeah, same thing.
Those are advantageous in certain situations.
Sure.
But then like we've all been saying, and you gave some great basketball examples, like you still need to be able to think and read and react with your teammates. Like there's a lot more to the pieces to the puzzle. Do you have any thoughts on sort of when those should be developed or in tandem, or what do you think is kind of the perfect, way to go about that?
Yeah, it's a little bit different for everyone, but the programs that I've seen have the most success for themselves winning games and sending kids to the highest levels are ones that focus more so on team concepts. Mm-hmm. And you can be a very good individual player in a team system, but every single competitive basketball game you will ever play will be 5-on-5.
Right. Yeah.
Like anyone that actually matters. You can play 1-on-1 with your friends at the gym, but that Scouts aren't showing up for that. You're not getting paid the big bucks for that.
Right.
You have to be able to play within a team concept, because if you can't, it doesn't really matter if you can do the Michigan 10 times in a row by yourself.
Yeah.
If you can't make a tape-to-tape pass.
Right.
If you can't make a three-pointer, but you can do a windmill dunk, okay, well, you have to be able to shoot. Otherwise, we'll just force you to shoot every time. And it's easy to scout people that are very one-dimensional. But someone that's a very good team player, it's almost impossible to scout. Right. And impossible to keep them from having success if the whole team is working together on both sides of the ice, offensive, defensive. I'm sure you guys see it in hockey too, where there's some superstar offensive players, but he never back checks.
Yeah.
Happens in basketball too. Guys just hunting their own shots, but then he never gets back on D, gets blown by and just waiting to shoot, waiting for his chance.
Right.
But if you can play, like talking about like what coaches really look for is well-rounded players.
Right.
Typically the best players are always well.
And like you have to be. It doesn't, like, no matter how good you are, you have to be able to defend your position.
Yeah.
And if you're always a liability on defense, well, then you can't really stay on the court, stay on the ice.
Right.
Yeah, when it's late in the game, you might get subbed out to bring someone in, and you want to be out there.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's still a team sport. So I was telling you before the show, we were talking to a guy that coaches and runs esports, and just the how interesting that is and the growth of that, and contrasting it to other traditional sports. The thing that we discussed there was, like, obviously there's professional capabilities now, like leagues and tons of money that's in there, but then short of that, there's also some kids that aren't necessarily looking to win the national championship of whatever game, but they want to be an influencer or a streamer. So kind of just sticking with the video and the social media side, obviously you mentioned you've got the kids coming out and trying to make those mixtapes, but from within the team, do you see any kids that are, I'm sure a lot of them at that level, they're playing, high level with your teams, and they want to try to, continue to play in the team environment as long as they can. But are there any kids in today's generation that you can tell their goal is maybe just to try to be like an influencer and be able to, have the windmill dunk, and they don't really care about being on a team forever?
Yeah, it's funny because I don't know if I haven't quite seen a kid that wants to be a quote unquote influencer in terms of basketball skills. Like, there are some kids in the States that kind of go viral and become these like mini sensations. Yeah. I haven't quite seen it here, but I'm sure it could happen anytime, any day. There's definitely some people that look better in a 1-minute clip than do when you watch a full game.
Right.
There have been kids, I'm like, oh, I've heard about this kid, I've seen him online. And then you watch him in person, it's like, oh, he doesn't play defense, he just launches shots, he can dunk, but so can lots of kids.
Right.
So it's always interesting getting your eyes on someone for the first time after you've seen their highlights, but then you see them in person and see what the reality is.
Right.
And then there's sometimes kids who you've never heard of and never seen because they're just not getting the exposure for whatever reason. And then you see them and they're super competitive, playing great defense, great team players, just kind of doing their job.
Right.
Like, it's a popular coaching maxim: do your job.
Yeah.
Like, just do what you're supposed to do. And those are the glue guys that every team needs.
Yeah.
They don't always get the most recognition, but every winning team has them.
Yeah, and you hear that a lot in hockey too. Like, sometimes you always want those guys that don't stand out to some degree, because they're not necessarily standing out in a good way, but they're also not standing out in a bad way.
They're not getting exposed.
Yeah, they're solid, they're reliable, they're key pieces of the team.
Yeah, and in basketball, those would be like contributor bench guys, or maybe like your fifth starter type guy.
Right.
But if you have someone that's reliable, that's not going to make mistakes, not going to mess up their job, knows exactly what to do with the ball in their hand every time, those guys are invaluable. Like, you don't want 5 of them, but you need a couple of them.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, and then you add on being a good teammate and, working hard and all the cultural pieces behind that. Like, that's awesome. So maybe let's talk a bit, like, how do you select your team? How does that look?
It's kind of a year-round process. Because at JP, there's a senior team and a junior team. The junior team is 10s and 11s. The senior team can be 10, 11, or 12. This year we had 2 grade 10s on the senior team. There's usually 1 or 2 grade 10s on the senior team. This year we had 2 really good kids who were on our senior team. And the process is kind of, a year-long, kind of a fluid process. There's always going to be... In high school, I found I've been coaching high school for 3 years. Every year there's a kid that just shows up. In the summer, it's like, oh, I just moved here from somewhere. I played basketball in Toronto. You're like, oh, great. Or I moved here from Calgary.
Yeah.
And you never can plan for those, but they're always great when they show up. Mm-hmm. We've yet to have the like baby LeBron show up. We're still dreaming of that day for that kid to just show up. Oh, I moved here from California.
Right. 6'7" and I'm
Yeah.
220.
Yeah, guess what? I'm 14 years old. That would be great. So those are kind of the X factors that you can't really account for. But then there's also like the junior high kids where like within the feeder schools of JP, you hope to get the ones that are the best come to your school. Mm-hmm. So then there's like the incoming kids. And then internally we work with kids kind of year round in terms of skills and development. In the summer, we'll do some fitness stuff. We have a spring team this year where a lot of our kids are going to be playing together because we figured out that like the top 4 teams this year that made the Final Four of high school basketball, they play together year round. So they play club together in like the fall and the spring, and then when school season starts, they're all ready. And our team didn't quite have that much cohesion for the last couple of years. Kids were going here, kids were going there. Kids weren't necessarily playing all together all year round, but you need to, you need to, because the singular voice of the coach has to be the same, the skills have to be the same, the system has to be the same, and that's how you really, because the margins are so small.
Yeah.
Everyone has good players, everyone has good athletes, but you have to get people on the same page and people speaking the same language all year round and from a young age. And the best schools, the best programs kind of feed kids in that have been playing in their system or something close to it already in junior high.
Right.
And then they keep them and they funnel them through it and they're all ready to go from day one.
Right.
You're not just meeting kids at the first practice.
Right.
You've all played together for 3 years already.
Right.
What's your policy on bringing in grade 10? So you're underclassmen. Is there a team policy? Well, we're not going to take any grade 10s unless they can play and contribute, or it's like you want to take a couple grade 10s each year. Maybe they ride, I don't want to say ride the pine, but limited playing time because of those grade 12, grade 11s. How do you guys, go about that?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit different every year. It depends on the crop of kids you have. This year we had one good guard and one good big man. They were both grade 10s. They didn't play much at the start of the year, but they really put in the work and really got a lot better. And by the end of the year, we're playing like major minutes.
Wow.
So every year, sometimes the exception would be like 3 or 4, but usually try to take 1 or 2 because you like to have them, because even within the senior and the junior team, it's not exactly the same system. It's not exactly the same coach. There's always going to be a few small differences. Mm-hmm. So it's sometimes nice to have a couple kids that you're hopefully, barring transfers, going to have in your system for 3 years. And because they can just get so much better and there can be so much development in 3 years' time as opposed to 1 or 2.
Mm-hmm.
You think it'd be beneficial if, say, the junior team and the varsity team had the same strategy? I mean, the tough part too is size and what you have to do.
Yeah, and it's also tough because high school coaches are all volunteers.
Okay. Yeah.
If we were getting paid, then it would be different, and then you could kind of invest different resources in different places. But because we're all volunteers, it's tough to really impose something upon another coach. If they've been coaching for a long time and this is the way they like to do things, you don't want to really tell people, we're not in the pros.
Yeah.
It's not a college system. So would it be a little bit beneficial for everyone to run the exact same things? To an extent, yes. But also, we're kind of in a funny spot where you have to give these volunteer coaches the ability to coach.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the freedom to coach, because this is how they've been doing things. This is how they're going to do things. And not everyone is as singularly focused on just success, and just winning. People do it their own ways and don't all want to do it the exact same way. There's so many different coaching strategies that it's tough because you want everyone to be speaking the exact same language sometimes, but then coaches have to have the freedom to do things their own way.
Right.
I think that might be a limitation then in Canada, with the high school coaches being all volunteers. I mean, we're down south in the States, that's a job. Like that
For
is
sure.
your job is just coaching.
High school
team.
coaches in the States make real money, make real salaries.
Yeah.
And like even college coaches here, like even, like college, I'd say U Sport, like U of A, McEwen, they make a living. But being a coach at a ACAC, whether it's NAIT or Concordia or Kings or any of those things, you're not getting rich. And you better be good at saving, or you better have other sources of income, because even at that quote unquote high level of ball, you're not making a huge amount of money.
Yeah.
And even the assistant coaches there might make a bit of money, but not a ton. Yeah. So it's tough because there's just not as much money in the college ranks and the high school ranks as there is in the States, that you can kind of bring in the best of the best at every level and really treat it like a professional operation.
Right.
Because there's just not enough money.
Yeah, and then that ends up being correlated to time. Like if people have other jobs and need to have other priorities, then obviously, you guys, I'm sure, put in a ton of time.
Yep.
But if it was, hypothetically your full-time job, like you're there, you're on call all the time.
Course.
There's a difference there.
For sure. Yeah. So, like if we were all getting paid like high school football coaches in Texas, then it would be just a whole different operation.
Yeah.
But we're all there for volunteer.
Yeah.
And like our head coach, Dante, he puts in as much time as if he was getting paid full time.
Yeah.
But he also trains and coaches. So like basketball is his full-time job.
Yeah.
But for just the school, he's not getting paid.
Yeah.
So it's tough because like he puts in all these hours, mornings and nights and film and everything else. And the goal is to hopefully get into the college ranks and move your way up.
Right.
But it's like you have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
He's pretty young. He's like 25, 26. He played college, knows the game super well. But it's a hard industry to get into because there's just not that many jobs.
Right.
And the jobs that there are don't pay that well.
Right.
So, yeah, you got to really love it.
You gotta love the game,
Totally.
a lot.
Yeah. Yep.
And how much? Sorry,
No,
man.
go ahead.
How much coaching development is there at the basketball level in Canada? Compared to, we always go back to hockey. Obviously, there's the Hockey Canada programs and certificates. What does the basketball model look like? Yeah,
similar. There's a lot of online things you can do. Then there's a lot of kind of in-person forums you can go to. It's kind of each up to their own how far they want to take it, how high. Like to coach a provincial team, you have to have your qualifications pretty high. To coach a national team, you have to have pretty high level qualifications. College teams, all these things. But to coach local high school, like we have to do like concussion awareness stuff and kind of baseline stuff, but you're not obligated to be as accredited. You have to all be registered because insurance and everything else.
Yeah.
But like there is good development. It's just not mandatory.
Yeah.
And those that really want to make it into a full-time thing, then they do more of it and they have all their qualifications on their resume and then they can put it there. But then there's also a funny thing with a lot of the high-end coaching jobs. You have to not only have the coaching qualifications, but you're expected to have like a master's in coaching.
Oh, that's a pretty big barrier.
Which is a huge barrier because there's some really good coaches in Edmonton, in Alberta, in Canada, whatever, who do it as a volunteer thing, but have been doing it for, let's say, 20 years, have all of their certifications, but never formally educated in coaching in a university. So therefore they won't even look at your resume if you apply for some of these high-level coaching jobs because you don't have a master's in coaching.
Right.
Which is, I don't think, a great system
because
there's some people who have a master's in coaching who are not good coaches.
Right.
Then there's some people who don't have any formal bachelor's or master's of coaching who are the best coach you've ever met.
Yeah.
So I understand why there's prerequisites and all these things, but it sometimes keeps very good coaches from jobs that they would otherwise be qualified for.
Yeah.
I think the ones like Safe Sports and like for the safety of the kids, those are important. But
those are super important.
Once it comes to like, coaching, it could be anything. Really.
Well, and so much of it is like you learn by experience.
Oh, for sure.
Like not necessarily like
it's not a textbook.
Right, exactly. Like coaching isn't taught in a lecture hall. Coaching is taught on your feet, interacting with people.
Yeah.
Is my opinion. And from what I've seen in 10 years of doing it, the coaches that connect the best are the ones that are personable and not just like robots telling you do this play and then they scream at you if you mess it up.
Yeah.
People that can relate and communicate and manage relationships and manage politics, those are the ones that are the best well-rounded coaches, not just the ones with the pieces of paper.
Yeah, and a textbook isn't going to teach you that. Like that, that's experience. And even your playing resume, that's another piece that obviously, again, in hockey, you see a lot of. We talked about this in another episode. Just because you played a high level doesn't necessarily guarantee that you're going to be a high-level coach.
Well, and it's a big thing in basketball, too. A lot of coaches come from the playing ranks.
Yeah.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
But that doesn't guarantee that you're going to be a good coach.
For sure.
Or there's a lot of really good coaches that never really played.
Yeah.
And then there's everything in between.
Yeah.
And then there's some guys who played at a super high level 20 years ago and then just kind of come back into it.
Right.
Like there was a guy who was a year ahead of me at Shep, was a superstar player, and is now just getting into coaching because his kids are of the age that they're playing sports.
Yeah.
And he loves the game and seems to be a good coach, but wasn't doing it for 20 years,
Right.
but is now getting back into it.
Right. Yeah.
So there's kind of every different version, but just because you played at a high level, because like being a player and being a coach is a completely different thing.
Totally different lens.
Completely.
Yeah.
And it's like Gretzky, terrible coach.
Yeah.
Because or like Michael Jordan would be a terrible coach because they're just so used to being in this other echelon of understanding of the game.
Yeah.
Then some of the kind of role players end up being very good coaches because they've always had to study more.
Yeah.
They've always had to understand every little detail of the game more because they got there through a lot more perseverance than just raw skill. Mm-hmm. And they weren't just a natural at the age of 12.
Yeah.
So I think in a lot of sports, a lot of the best coaches were players, but not necessarily the best players.
Yeah.
So it's a funny balance.
No, it's true everywhere. Like I think it's always like some guys that were even like the second quarterback on their college team, and then because they had to be in the room all the time to try to get better, or we have role players in the NHL, or even like golf. Like no one that's really that good is ever like a coach.
Right. Tiger Woods isn't going to be a swing coach.
No.
Yeah. Well, and then part of it too, like those dynamics, I totally agree. But part of it too is just finances, right?
Well,
like
nowadays,
if you've made millions and millions of dollars as a professional hockey player or golfer, you can retire and not necessarily have to be motivated to get into coaching. You know, so there's the passion, but then there's also just strictly a financial component.
Yeah, that's a big thing
right?
too.
So-
Guys, like once those paychecks stop, you're like, okay, now what am I going to do?
Right.
But if you made $100 million, then you're like, I'm good.
I'm fine. I don't need to worry about
Here's
it.
a question maybe for you first anyways. Like, do you study coaching, I'm assuming? Like, do you look at all sorts of different coaches in other sports just to borrow things? And then on the basketball side, what are you looking to kind of keep up your education in that aspect?
Yeah, I don't do a lot of, I'd say, like formal studying, but I'm always, like whenever I'm watching sports and they ever do like the mic'd up of like the coach, it's always interesting to hear the different approaches that coaches take in different sports. Mm-hmm. There's the raw guys, there's the super analytical guys, there's the tacticians, there's the friends, there's the screamers. It's always interesting to hear the approaches and like how they deal with their players, how they manage the refs. It's always interesting to hear those things. And then there's all the kind of qualifications you have to take every year to keep up your own certifications, which we have to take, for concussions and all these different courses you have to take every year, which I do all the time. But I wouldn't say I formally study different coaches. I kind of by osmosis or kind of see, or even it's interesting watching like Hollywood depictions of coaches.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like you see in different sports movies, and there's like in terms of motivationally.
Yeah.
That's where you can pick up the most from Hollywood, I'd say.
Was Coach Carter like a big
Exactly.
movie for you?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say Coach Carter. But there's like kind of like different, or like Any Given Sunday, or like any of these kind of like motivational speeches.
Yeah.
And something I've always found is I'm good at kind of relating to kids, and kind of being, I don't know, a big brother or a father figure type thing, and I'm not necessarily the tactician of the X's and O's because I never played at that level. So I'm not going to pretend to be that. Right. And I haven't put my mind to becoming super expert at that part of the game. But I find my strength is more so kind of relating to kids and having someone to talk to and having someone supportive of them. Because kids come from all sorts of different backgrounds and family situations, and they might be very skilled, but they might not have someone that's really supportive of them and really looking out for them and really kind of want something great for them.
I think we should talk about your parents more, but then
of course
they were very supportive of both you guys, but it seemed like they gave you guys a lot of autonomy and
totally. Well, it's funny because neither of my parents know the first thing about sports. My dad grew up on the farm in Alberta and has been a lawyer since he was 21 and doesn't know the first thing about any sport. Lived in Edmonton during the 80s and like couldn't have told you what was going on in the streets. My mom grew up in Montreal, moved here in her 20s. Again, doesn't know the first thing about sports. Doesn't like, they were always supportive. They would always, like, my dad would kind of pick us up and take us to games, but they never really were that involved, which was nice because they weren't the crazy political parents.
Right. Yeah.
But they were always supportive of us being athletic and playing multiple sports, and they weren't trying to get us into the league of any sort of league, but they're always supportive. And that's what we needed, and that was great for us. But they were not kind of these, I'm sure everyone remembers the crazy singularly minded parents that you were surrounded with growing up who kind of gave their kids a tough time, or, the kids that got screamed at on the way home.
Yeah.
And that doesn't always make you fall in love with the sport. And I fell in love with sports at a young age and was supported and had the ability to work in sports and now kind of do it more in a volunteer capacity. But because it was never, maybe this is one of the reasons to kind of psychoanalyze myself. Maybe one of the reasons is because it was never like pressure.
Yeah.
Like it was never like, you have to win today, otherwise you're sleeping outside. Yeah. Or like
you're walking home, you're running behind the car.
Yeah, exactly. Patrick O'Sullivan stuff. Like it was never any of that stuff. Yeah. It was always like, remember one time my dad tried to bribe me to like score a goal. He's like, if you score a goal, I'll give you $20.
Yeah.
I didn't score a goal. So I didn't get the $20. Yeah. But like other than that, it was just like, great. Like if you make a team, great. If you don't make a team, okay.
Yeah.
Like it's not going to change anything. And that might have kind of helped me kind of naturally develop a passion for it.
Yeah.
And I was always more into kind of the stats and the kind of player transactions, playing video games or fantasy sports, any of these things. And it was less so about my personal competition in it and kind of more so kind of watching it from afar in some ways.
Yeah. No, it's super interesting. It's definitely been a common theme that we've heard from a lot of our different guests. There was opportunities provided, the door was opened, but and young kids sometimes, they want to pull the chute maybe a little bit early. Sometimes you need to say, hey, like, don't give up.
Yep.
But it wasn't being forced to continue. Totally. There was still a free choice being made there, right?
Yeah, and like I was saying earlier, I played like tier 1 soccer until I was like 12, I think, 12 or 13. And then I took a year off because I had to study for my bar mitzvah. And then I was in junior high. Then I started playing junior high sports and was just kind of always allowed to, if you want to play this, great. If you want to play this, great. Yeah. I tried to play some youth football when I was like 9 years old, but I didn't want to hit kids, so I just quit.
Yeah.
And my parents were like, okay, if you don't want to hit kids, then don't hit kids. Then go play soccer.
Well, and the other thing that we've heard from a lot of people too, and it sounds like you're trying to be that guy for your kids on your team right now, is usually one person that really sticks out, who is so supportive, whether it was a parent or a coach, but someone who just reinstilled that belief that, like, I bring something to the table, I should be confident, I can contribute.
Yep.
And a couple at some pretty key times where people were really close to mailing it in.
And honestly, my absolute favorite part of coaching is when you see a kid who you coached years ago and he comes up to you and says hi and says thank you and says you're my favorite coach and thank you for everything you did. Like there was a kid who I coached, he was in grade 8. It was on our under 15 tier 1 basketball team for Southwest. Good kid, but at that time you wouldn't have been able to know that he was going to be, he's now playing U Sport at Lethbridge.
Nice.
Very good kid. He hit a bit of a growth spurt, which helped a little bit. And I saw his mom at a game a little while ago. I was like, oh, I'm so-and-so's mom, and you were always such a great coach, and you're always his favorite coach, and I'm still in touch with him, and he's like in school, still playing, doing all these things. And, excuse me, those are kind of like the relationships that I value the most, is the people who over years, who you can see kind of grow and develop. And when the kid was 13 or 14 years old, he never would have had any idea that he'd be playing college sports. But now you can look back upon these kind of fork in the road moments where if there's someone kind of pushing you positively in the right direction, you can achieve things that you never otherwise could have.
Yeah.
But a lot of these people, like so many people just don't have the right kind of positive role models or people, or like through no fault of their own, their parents are busy.
Yes.
And their parents don't have time to be at every practice and every game. And they have other siblings and they have their own work and they have their own life and they have pets and they have all these different things going on. It's hard for everything to be reliant upon the parents. Yeah. That's like the classic adage is it takes a village.
Yeah.
And it really does.
Yeah.
To achieve anything in life, it's not just within the four walls of your house. It takes the community, it takes the village, and to really achieve something, there's like you talk to like my wife's a successful lawyer. She talks about the teachers she had along the way because she didn't play as much sports, but she had teachers that really pushed her towards certain things. And she still talks glowingly of.
Yeah.
And the ones that really make an impact, and it's usually that same kind of teenage years where it's not necessarily like your life is going to go down the drain if you don't have that thing. But if you really get pushed towards this route or that route, it can change everything.
Yeah.
How about for you, you're talking about coaches and mentors and teachers. How about for you? Anyone stick out from your youth days that you remember, or even too that maybe you model your coaching style after now?
That's interesting. There was one guy who was my coach who was, he was like in his 20s, I'd say. I was in like under 15, under 14. And he like lived close to us, so he would kind of give me rides to games sometimes and have just kind of chats about life and basketball, whatever. He was good. And then one of my friend's dads was our youth soccer coach. He was great. But I wouldn't necessarily say I model my approach after any of these people. I've kind of just taken my own kind of personal approach to kind of be a supportive person and not necessarily repeat the things that I saw in a movie, but just kind of be there for people when you never know what else is going on in their lives and who else they have that is being supportive of them. And just sometimes people just need someone to listen to, or listen to them, or someone to talk to, or someone to be supportive or give a ride home, or just any of these things that go along with growing up.
Similar question. Obviously, like that mentorship piece and building those relationships seems to be super important for you. Matt and I have known you a long time. You've always been a good guy, very social. Where do you think that started to come from? Do you think, I mean, obviously having met your parents and your brother, like I'm assuming family was a big part of that. Would there be any other influences? Faith possibly, anything like that?
No, not faith, I wouldn't say. But like I was always an outgoing kid.
Yeah.
Always had big social group. A lot of the guys who I was friends with growing up, I'm still good friends with now. And I've always just tried to be very personable.
Yeah.
I've always loved talking to people and hanging out, and whether you're famous or not famous or young or old, I love to just kind of chat with people.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's always something I've loved to do. And I'd say like from my mom, I've always taken a very like positive outlook on the world and try to kind of make the world a better place. And through whatever skills or abilities I have to do that, and I found my strongest one, or the one I can really help, is be supportive, be there for people that don't necessarily have someone, and it doesn't even have to always be about sports.
Yeah.
Talk to kids about family and faith and school and relationships, because growing up is tough.
Yeah.
And and it's even tougher for kids now with phones and social media. It's a weird world out there that we can't really even fathom. Mm-hmm. So you need people around you that can help you kind of cut through the noise and kind of navigate the weird world that it is now. And I don't really know half the stuff these kids are dealing with these days, but if I can just be a supportive person that can help them kind of maybe forget about all the craziness, then that's what I can do.
Now, specifically on that, like obviously you're around these guys a lot with your practices and your games. Are there any specific techniques that you try to use to foster that? Like, do you try to, get some one-on-one time with the kids, or is there anything within, just your kind of day-to-day that you do to go out of your way to try to deepen those relationships?
I try to kind of do it as organically as possible.
Yeah.
I don't want it to feel forced.
Yeah.
I don't want it to feel like anyone has to talk to me,
Sure.
or has to. If you don't want to talk to me, don't talk to me.
Yeah.
Like, and I always, on any team, you have different relationships with every kid.
Yeah.
Every kid is a little bit different. Some are more outgoing, some are more quiet, some are more willing to talk and willing to share. Some also, you have different relationships with their parents. Because some kids, both parents are at every game. Some kids, one parent's at every game. Some kids never met their parents in 3 years.
Right. Yeah.
So that plays into the relationship too. Like, it frames the relationship with the kid when you have a good relationship with their parents. But then if you've never met the parents, you can have a good relationship with the kid, and the parents have no idea.
Right.
So that changes things a little bit too. But I try to just kind of be authentic, be myself, because I've discovered I'm old enough to be a lot of these kids' dads.
Right. Yeah.
I'm 36, and that's the same age as some of the parents.
Right.
Because there's kids on my team who are 15. So you can have a kid when you're 21, and that's
Yep.
is what it is. And so I sometimes kind of just try to approach it as, big brother, father figure type thing. Because a lot of other coaches are a bit younger. They're more in their 20s, just finishing up their coaching careers. So they approach it in sometimes more of an X's and O's, nuanced technical things. Like, we'll be watching the same game, and they'll see things that I just don't see. Mm-hmm. Because I've just never played at that high level. I'm watching the ball, and they're seeing things off the ball and away from the ball, all these little tiny details that I just don't see. Mm-hmm. And then they're very focused on the little technical details. And I can take the time to be more kind of generally supportive, generally helping with little things that aren't necessarily X's and O's, but are also a part of the equation in terms of being successful.
Right. Yeah, that sounds like a really good balance to have within the coaching staff.
For sure, yeah. And we're lucky to have such a great coaching staff. Like, I think this year we had 6 coaches.
Wow.
And 5 of them everyone except me had college basketball experience.
Wow.
So it's for a high school, it's pretty rare, especially because it's all volunteer.
Right.
But it's great to have so much experience and so much kind of high level understanding of the game. And then there's kind of a bit of everything and different ages, different relationships. Every coach has a different relationship with each kid. And then you can kind of hopefully build them into a good force.
Yeah. Just a note I had here, obviously, like you said, there's some separation between the junior and the senior teams, multiple reasons why that happens. Can you ever practice together? Are there times where you guys can commingle and you can kind of fast track maybe getting to know some of those kids?
A little bit, and that's more so what we're going to try to do in the off season.
Right.
And bring a lot of the returners back from seniors and from juniors into a spring club team to get them kind of speaking all the same language.
Right.
But during the season, it's tough because game days are different days, practice times are different.
Yeah.
You're on a different team.
Right.
So we don't really practice together. Sometimes we'll go watch their games. Sometimes they'll come watch our games. But the off season is more so the time for kind of the commingling.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to do more so this year because we've realized every other high level successful team that made the Final Four did and is doing this.
Right.
So we're falling behind if we're not.
Yeah. And just to kind of build on that too, how early can you get to know the kids in junior high before they come? Like, is there any restrictions there in terms of?
Not really. Like, there was a kid who was playing on my spring league team last year who was in grade 7.
Yeah.
He was like 6'1" in grade 7, playing with a bunch of grade 9s and like doing fine. And we would invite him to high school kind of pickup games, and he was fine. So there's no real, like, any younger than that, because there's no elementary school sports in Edmonton. But junior high sports are competitive in Edmonton. And there's like I was at the U15, because there's also like community league basketball, which is like broken up into zones. Like when I was a kid, I played basketball for Glenora Community League or Parkview Community League. Now it's like Northwest, Northeast, Southwest, Southeast, Leduc. Now it's more so like zones, kind of maybe more of a hockey type thing. But I was at the finals for the U15 Community League Tier 1 a couple weeks ago, and there was like hundreds of people there.
Wow.
Like more so than you'd see at like some high school games.
Yeah.
But it's like super competitive, super intense, and there's kids grade 7, grade 8, grade 9 who are already like good, and you can kind of identify as being like, oh, that's one to like keep an eye on for next year, keep an eye on. Maybe start developing a relationship with parents, go to these games, you meet the parents, you meet the kids. It's just tough when there's a kid who lives in like Leduc.
Right.
And like, yeah, you're not going to drive 45 minutes into the city every day.
Right. Well, and on that too, like within the school system, I think you mentioned it, but just to clarify, you have your feeder schools. You can't have a Leduc resident play for JP, right?
Every school is different. Because it's funny, there's Edmonton Public and then there's Edmonton Catholic.
Right.
Edmonton Public has certain rules, Edmonton Catholic has certain rules. And then every school has different rules based upon how many kids they have enrolled. So there's different levels of enrollment growth, they call it. Mm-hmm. So if you're a level, I don't know if it goes up or down. If it's a level 1, then anyone can go to your school because you're not at capacity.
Right.
If you're level 2, if you live in the zone, then you're guaranteed a spot. But if you don't live in the zone, don't even bother registering. Right. Then there's level 3, where it's even if you live in the zone, you're not guaranteed a spot because the school's packed.
Yeah.
A lot of the new schools in the south side are full. So even if you live across the street from the school, you might not get in.
Right.
Yeah. And then Edmonton Catholic has different rules in terms of registration, which I'm not as familiar with. But yeah, it all depends on the school. It all depends on how full the school is in terms of enrollment. And it depends on Catholic or public. So there's a lot of different factors. And then like in Leduc, for example, there was historically only ever Leduc Composite High School. Mm-hmm. And then now just this year or last year, they opened a new high school out there. Right. So now Leduc's been sliced in half. So the kids on this side have to go to the new school. The kids on this side go to Leduc Comp.
Right.
So there's just a lot of population growth that feeds into a lot of these things. And it's tough because some kids are what we would consider like tier 1 quality players, but they live in a neighborhood that doesn't have a tier 1 school. Mm. So there's only 12 schools in tier 1. And if you don't live in the zone of one and you're a superstar player, you're a tier 1 type kid, you're in a tough spot because what do you do?
Got to find a school that has room for it, right?
Or this might lead to more club.
Yeah, it's stuff like, I live in this zone where I'm not getting good competition in school, so I'm going to go play club or prep.
Mm-hmm. Now, is it at all like the states where like athletics may provide a pathway for the kid to get into school, or is it more just like lottery kind of just?
It all depends on the school. It all depends on the size. It depends on all the other factors.
But if you're like, hey, we got this basketball kid, we need him in. Like, is there any way to fast track him in?
Not really. No. Okay. It's just like a lot of the schools literally just have lotteries.
So yeah.
So it's like if your number is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then you get in. If it's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, then you have to go to a different school that has space.
Right.
So like even if you live in the West End, if you register too late for your local school, you might have to go to a school in the side of the city.
Yeah.
So it's a tricky spot. But it's like at JP right now, there's going to be 1,100 incoming grade 10s.
Wow.
And so there's like more than 3,000 students, and it's huge. It's physically a huge school because it has automotives and construction and all these other programs, but it's just so many kids.
Yeah.
And so they've had to kind of change the rules. Like it used to be you can live anywhere in the city and register, but now there's just too many kids. Right. So it has to be you have to live in the zone.
Right.
And then you can register.
Yeah. And do you play the Catholic schools during your regular season?
We do now. Like when we were in high school, it was separate.
Yeah.
It was public league and Catholic league.
Right.
Now they've merged it into what's called Metro for high school. Junior high is still public and Catholic. Mm-hmm. But for high school, you play in Metro. So it's more so a skill-based thing. Like FX just won cities, and they have 1,000 students in the whole school.
Yeah.
And they just beat Scona, who's probably 2,500 kids. And they beat us, and we have like more than 3,000 kids.
FX is Catholic. Those
Yeah. St. Francis Xavier. Yeah, there's like Archbishop O'Leary is Catholic. They were really good this year. St. Francis Xavier is Catholic. They were really good this year. On the public side, Harry Ainley was good this year. Scona was good this year. We made the playoffs. Jasper Place, we were okay. Roshap was public. They made the playoffs. So there's lots of good Catholic, lots of good public. But it's nice that they all play each other. Now it's more so a skill-based thing. And then every year there's kind of like a soccer like relegation and promotion system. So there's 12 teams in Tier 1, and then the teams that top 8 make playoffs, bottom 4 do a mini tournament at the start of every year against the top 4 from Tier 2. So you can bump up or bump down. Some teams don't want to bump up. Some teams want to just stay Tier 2, Tier 3, whatever they are, and just do their thing. But some teams want to bump up. But there's a huge disparity, even within Tier 1, between the best and the worst. Mm-hmm. It's like FX beat pretty much everyone this year by 30 or 40.
Wow.
They lost one regular season game and then beat O'Leary, who they lost to earlier in the year, pretty easily in the semis. So like their biggest competition is a school from Calgary. They're trying to win provincials against this school from Calgary called St. Mary's, another Catholic school, who they lost to in provincial finals last year. So there's like the good teams, there's the great teams, then there's like the 2 teams in the province that are like the cream of the crop.
Gotcha.
Do you have an option to not play to go up, or do you have to go in there no matter what?
You don't have to go up. You can decline to do the feeder seeding tournament, they call it. If you want to just stay in Tier 2 and have fun in Tier 2, then you can do that, or Tier 3. Like there's like Tier 5. There's 5 tiers. So there's like these sort of tournaments for 5 to 4, 4 to 3, 3 to 2, 2 to 1. You don't have to bump up if you don't want to. Some teams want to bump up. Some teams don't. It's kind of every school's decision.
And is that for league play this year? Like you mentioned the
Just 1 year
pre-tournament
at a time.
Okay.
Yeah, so you do the seeding tournament, and then that sets the board for this year, for this school year. And then next year, the teams that miss the playoffs will play, if they want to, against the Tier 2 teams to see who makes up. So every year, the 12 teams in Tier 1 change by 1 or 2 teams.
Right.
And
That's
is
cool.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but could a Tier 2 team still play, well, it doesn't go by size anymore, does it?
Not really,
It's
no.
just how good a school is?
But provincials is based on size.
And that was going to be my question. Could a Tier 2 team still get into provincials?
Yeah, because like Edmonton Christian, for example, is a small Christian school by Rochep in the West End. And they play, I think, either 2A or 3A based off of their enrollment. So they win provincials in 2A and 3A often. But then in Tier 1, they're usually like a decent team, but they don't win cities in Tier 1. But based off of their enrollment, they're very competitive against the other schools in the province with their size, with 500 kids or whatever it is.
Gotcha.
And then there's like, it goes down to 1A, which is like the small towns of 100 student high schools in small town Alberta play against each other and they can win provincials for 1A.
Right.
But then like the bigger the school, then there's also schools like down south in Raymond, Alberta, like deep south. The school's like 500 kids, but they pump out basketball and football kids every year because it's like a little like mini Friday Night Lights down there.
Cool.
Yeah.
So they play up to 4A every year.
Wow.
And there's like the graduating class is like 100 kids.
That's awesome.
So like they have lots of like football and basketball pros, NCAA, like everything. Like they really take it seriously. So you can play up to whatever level you want, but if you get smoked, well then you're not going to keep doing it.
You gotta go
Right.
down.
Are kids traveling down to Raymond to like go to school? Is that what's happening, or is it just like
It's local kids.
It's just local.
It's always been a hotbed.
Oh wow. That's
Yeah,
great.
it's a wild thing they have going on down there, and it's like all the like. Do you remember the name Brock Ralph, CFL player?
familiar,
He's from down there. And then there are certain families that have like a bunch of kids and like big extended families, and they're like dynasties down there where they'll be like, there's like these 3 sisters. 2 of them are in D1 playing basketball right now, and then the youngest one might be the best of the bunch, and then they have a brother, and the dad's the coach.
That's
and
cool.
there's just like an endless stream of these kids. And they do the same thing in football. They're like they regularly finish second to Harry Ainley in football. And same thing, they have like 100 kids in their high school, but like all the boys play football.
Right.
And like they've been playing football since they were 6 years old.
together.
Yep, together.
that's
And that's
like
a big
big-
part of
yeah.
it. Is they're all playing together. They're all playing the same system. In basketball, they're great shooters. And they know the same system. They know the same language. And they're super competitive. And the whole city buys in.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's religion down there.
It's such a good case study for nature and nurture.
For sure.
You know? Like,
Yeah,
super
it's
cool.
fascinating to see. And they take, and like Lethbridge Raymond, Tabor, McGrath, all these like southern Alberta communities that are super into basketball, super into sports, and are competitive with the biggest schools or even better than the biggest schools in the cities.
That's so cool. Do you guys have a bit more of a rivalry with St. FX being across the parking lot from them?
For sure.
Yeah.
Recently, they've been smashing us. They have a really good system going right now. They've won back-to-back city championships. Really good coach, really good recruiting. Their coach also coaches for Team Alberta, so he's great at what he does.
Yeah.
So recently they've been taking our lunch, but it's definitely all the kids know each other.
Yeah.
They all grew up together. They're all West End kids.
Right.
The schools are literally across the street from one another.
Yeah.
Then there's also competition for incoming grade 9s. All the kids who live in that local catchment, in that local region, like, oh, well, they're winning all these games. I want to go be on the winning team.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an uphill battle to convince kids to come to a team that isn't winning city finals.
Right.
So there's a lot of competition for sure.
I guess what's your pitch to someone that's maybe on the verge of picking one or the other?
Yeah, it's tough. It depends on the kid. Even like there's some kids whose parents went to JP and end up going to that school. Like, well, I want to win. And right now we don't have the track record of winning. Our last time we won provincials, I think, was 2019. But for these kids, like, they were 9 years old, so they don't remember that. So it's tough. Like, we can offer great experienced coaching staff. We have great facilities. We have 3 full-size gyms. We have a great fitness center. We have better options than other schools do in terms of making you employable once basketball is over. More playing time to offer, because at these super elite schools that keep winning, well, then there's all the guys that are there already. Mm-hmm. So if you want some playing time as a grade 10, well, then maybe come see us.
Sure.
But if you want to maybe have a better chance to win, like, we're hopefully building something, and that's what we're working towards. But right now, we haven't won cities in a while, so that's always the goal. But right now, we can't sell that.
Yeah, it's still not that long, though. Like 2019, you know?
But for these kids, like, it's 2025, so, like, they have all they know is what they've seen in the last couple of years.
Sure.
I just think society in general, it's like what happened yesterday.
Yeah.
Like, it's
Like,
very,
What
Like, I
have you
don't
done for
remember-
me lately?
Like, I don't remember much of what happened in 2019.
Yeah, that's
Like,
true.
I was...
well, there was a vortex in that little
Yeah,
time.
exactly. Like I remember working, I guess, but other than that, like, it's a bit of a blur.
Yeah.
So asking a kid, like, oh, remember when we won provincials in 2019? They were like, no, I remember when these guys won it last year.
Right. Yeah.
And again, there's you want to be around success.
Yeah, for sure.
Some people want to kind of forge their own path, but it's tough. But then that's kind of our job, is to sell them and to kind of get them to buy into what we're building.
Right.
I always remember JP being the marquee school for basketball, and you guys had the big tournament.
Reb.
Do you still do that one?
Still do it. It's great. And it's funny because it's such a big tournament and we bring in so many good teams that JP has never won it.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Even the years that we've won provincials, they brought in teams from California, brought in teams from New York, brought in teams from Toronto that were just too good. Mm-hmm. So this year we had 2 American teams that came in. But it was funny. It was the same. FX was in it, and they played that St. Mary's team from Calgary, and it was those guys that played each other in the finals this year, because they're both like really that high level right now, and they beat the American teams this year.
Cool.
How big were the American? Like what? Like were they like the 5A schools, or were they like? Where were they from? Do you
This
remember?
year where was the team from this year? Last year there was a team from New York State, from I think Poughkeepsie, New York, and we looked them up, and they're like average American teams. And they came in and just smoked us. It's just a bit of a different level of competition. Like, there was this kid last year, because in American high school, you can start high school when you're in grade 9. Right. There was a kid last year who was in grade 9, and he was like 5'5", and he just smoked us.
Wow.
And it's just like nothing we could really do to keep up with him.
Yeah.
So we don't bring in like the super elite 5A monstrous schools, but any American team is, not any, but most of them are good. Mm-hmm. And we bring in ones that we have existing relationships with. Mm-hmm. And there's one school that's been coming for years and years. And this was the first year they ever lost a game at the tournament. It's always been they just come in and win the tournament.
Wow.
But this year, I think FX beat them or St. Mary's beat them, one of them. But yeah, it's great. And like, we have Vancouver teams come in, Saskatchewan teams come in. So it's always a great tournament. And again, because we have 3 full-size competition gyms, we can run a full boys and girls senior and junior tournament at the same time.
Wow.
So there's hundreds of kids, thousands of parents. It's a really fun time, and it's great for the kids. And it's like every year we do like a big game at noon in front of the whole student body, and that's probably the coolest experience for the kids. There's like maybe 2,000 people in the building, and there's marching bands, and there's
the cult experience.
The dancers are there, and everyone's there, and it's like the building's buzzing.
Yeah.
And it's loud and it's shaking, and everyone you know is there cheering you on, and that's a really cool experience for the kids. And it's a bit of a once in a lifetime thing for them, because maybe 1 or 2 of the kids on the team will play college, but for a lot of them, this is the most fun they'll ever have playing sports.
Is there a component in that tournament where like the kids all get together? Like I know the away teams will be probably meeting each other because they'll be in hotels and whatnot, but is there something that
Yeah, there's a little bit. Like last year we went for dinner with that team from Poughkeepsie, New York. We try to kind of get to know the teams that really travel the furthest. We don't necessarily spend as much time with the teams from Calgary, but at provincials every year there's like a banquet on like the first day. You get to know all the players, get to know all the coaches. So that's a nice little way to kind of get to know people. But they've changed the basketball provincials format this year. I'm not totally sure why. It used to be top 16 teams in the province go to one site. 2 years ago it was at JP. Last year was in Red Deer. Other years in Calgary, sometimes in the south. Top 16 teams go, and it's like a March Madness style bracket. Cool. But then there's also like the consolation style bracket. So regardless, you get at least 3 games, maybe 4 games. So you go there, it's like a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, provincial champion at the end. A lot of fun. This year they're kind of switching it up into a regional model for some reason, where there's next weekend, there's going to be like 4 regional sites. I think like North, Central, South, I don't know, and a 4th one somewhere. And then there'll be, let's say, the top 16 teams ranked, and then they'll go the 1st seed, the 5th seed, the 9th seed, and the 16th seed or whatever will go to one site. And then 2, 7, blah, 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 go to a second site. And you do kind of a mini tournament, a mini regional championship, and then the winner of that one goes to the Final Four.
Cool. In
Calgary in 2 weeks. Not sure why they're splitting it up across 2 weekends, across multiple sites. It's kind of a pilot project they're doing. Yeah. So we'll see how it goes.
Seems for exposure, it'd be better to have everyone in one place so that it could be like more, everyone can just visit.
I agree, but the tricky part is there's not many places in the province that can host that.
Right.
So rather than just giving it to the same schools over and over to host, they're making it a little bit easier on the hosts, because last year in Red Deer, it was spread across like 7 facilities.
Right.
Which doesn't really create a tournament atmosphere.
Right.
When it was at JP 2 years ago, it was great because it was all in one building.
Right.
But there's not many schools in the province that have 3 full-size gyms that can host a provincial quality match.
Yeah.
So they're trying this, and then originally they were going to do the Final Four at the Expo Center in Edmonton, but instead they're going to do it at Winsport in Calgary. And it's cool though. They do the Edmonton City Finals for Tier 1 through 5 boys and girls at the Expo now.
Nice.
Last couple of years. And it's nice because more people can fit in. And they do it like 2 o'clock is Tier 1, 4 o'clock is Tier 2, and they just do it all day Friday and Saturday is City Finals.
Cool.
Because before it would just be in like the highest seeds home gym. And then a couple of years ago, it was at Scona, and there was like 500 people that couldn't get in. They're just at capacity. They're like, sorry, we're full. Yeah. And all the parents and grandparents and kids, like everyone wants to go.
Yeah.
So last night at the Expo, for the boys city finals, there was probably, I'd say over 1,000 people there.
Wow.
That's
and
good.
it's nice because then they charge $10 to get in, and this for parking, and like they can generate a bit of revenue.
Yeah.
And all the grandparents can watch, all the kids, all the friends, everyone can come watch. Everyone can afford $10.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a nice place to watch, and it feels like the big leagues.
Yeah.
Because you're playing on like a big pro court with the lights beaming down on you, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, even that regional model, right? Like Matt was saying, I think you probably meant like less exposure. It's going to be harder for like scouts and stuff to come
For
to
sure.
multiple locations, but you have more local exposure.
Yep.
So now you're letting these, places that normally would never have playoff games
Yep.
actually have some playoff games,
Yep.
and it gets the local community out,
Totally.
and hopefully some younger kids potentially wanting to be on that team when they're older, right?
But it's funny though, because like this regional model, it's not necessarily like just the Edmonton teams are playing in the Edmonton site. Calgary team is playing Calgary site. It's like it depends where you're ranked.
Oh, okay.
So like
It could be all Edmonton teams up north.
it could be.
It could be. And then that kind of...
And then it's
weird,
it's
too.
weird because if you go there, because each one will be like a mini Final Four, and then the winner goes to the Final Four. So you could like, there might be a team that has to go from Edmonton down to Raymond, drive 6 hours, play one game, lose, and turn around,
right.
which is tough because and now there's no like consolation bracket either.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it's like, I don't know. It's a pilot project. I think there's already a lot of people that don't love it. So we'll see how it
I think
goes.
you can find it in one place. I don't think anything's wrong with that, provided they had the facility.
Right.
Because you think like college, I know softball. Pretty sure it's always in Nebraska, Omaha.
Yep.
Like it's always there.
Yep.
Like it just doesn't even if because they're probably gonna be in the finals a lot too. They're gonna always get home field, but they have the facility to host this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make it good.
Like
Yeah, and
it makes
and
it special too.
for sure. And the one thing this avoids is always they would let the host team into the provincials regardless of whether they actually qualified.
Right.
So this way it's now just the pure top 16 teams.
Yeah.
And it avoids that kind of sympathy pick of like 2 years ago we hosted a JP. We didn't actually qualify for provincials authentically, but we were in provincials. Only because we were hosting. Right. And then we did not do great.
It's like the Memorial Cup, the same
Yeah.
thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, same thing. And it's
Or junior A,
But I guess if it's
RBC.
always at the same place, then that's also unfair in a certain way.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no perfect way to do it.
Yeah.
So it's they're trying different models, trying different things, and we'll see what sticks.
Yeah, I think more games is better. That way, at least, because it's still development, right?
Sure.
So
Yeah.
and
Totally.
it's fun.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't even you want to play in the finals, but you want to play regardless.
Yeah, for sure. And for any of our listeners, the tournament that you guys host every year, just when does that run in case they want to check it out?
December, I think early December every year at Jasper Place High School.
Is there a website to go to?
If you Google Jasper Place High School athletics, the Reb tournament always has its own little sub web page every year. A lot of great teams show up, very competitive. Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and they do a dunk contest, and they
cool.
do all these fun things for the opening ceremonies.
Nice.
So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
That's awesome. Well, we're probably going to have to start getting towards wrapping up. So just going back a little bit here, definitely want to ask you about the Good Hoops Basketball Club. And,
For sure.
And have you be able to speak a little bit about that.
Yeah, I've been coaching with them for 3 years, 4 years, something like that. They're one of the bigger clubs in the city. They have boys and girls, kind of every age group, multiple teams. They were one of the first clubs in the city, and now there have been a lot of other clubs pop up. They've put a lot of guys into D1, D2, JUCO, U Sport, ACAC, everything. They're run by a couple local guys, Sonny and Ryan, and they've now also opened up their own like prep component of it too. So they do it year round as a full-time business. And I just coach with them in the spring, and in the fall a bit too. But great guys, great program, really competitive, and they have a lot of alumni come back and coach with them.
Cool.
Which is always a good sign that they have good relationships, and they've kind of developed these kids to play at the next level, but also want to come back and be part of helping the next generation. So it's a lot of fun, and it kind of keeps me busy year round.
Yeah.
We'll see how much time I have come the spring once we're having our second kid. We'll see how much time I have to be doing all this coaching. But it's lots of fun. So I'm doing a lot more assistant coaching.
Yeah.
I used to have a lot more time to be head coach, run my own teams, but it's just hard to manage life and work and everything else.
Sure.
While also, because now I can, if I'm busy, I don't have to be there for every practice.
Right.
I still do everything I can to make every game, but if I can't make every practice, it's okay.
Right.
So big coaching staff. So I've scaled back a little bit in terms of how much I'm doing. And I used to like drive kids home after practices and games and whatever. Pick up McDonald's on the way, but now I'm kind of like in and out. Got to get home. So it's life changes as you get older.
You got a whole other team at home you got to take care of.
Exactly. I got a house full of girls. So I'm gonna maybe have a couple girls in the WNBA one day. We'll see.
Nice.
I guess for you, like with your kids, what's the first kind of sporting experience you're gonna give them?
Well, I have a little baby basketball hoop set up in the living room. So my wife's tried to tell me to not be the crazy sports dad. I don't think I'll be a full-on crazy sports dad, but I'm happy for her to do whatever she wants. My wife did kind of dance and ballet and all that stuff growing up. She never did really competitive sports, but I definitely want to get my kids involved into sports. Mm-hmm. I think there's so many good life skills, teamwork, and kind of persevering and working towards a goal and all these different things that you can learn from sports that are hard to pick up anywhere else.
Yeah.
So I'll definitely want to get the girls into sports. Which ones? I'll guide them towards basketball. I'll guide them towards golf. And yeah, we'll kind of see what they like to do. And it's going to be a whole different experience being the parent.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to it though. And I think it's going to be cool to kind of see what they gravitate towards, see what they like, see what their personalities are. So it's going to be fun.
I'd say dance and gymnastics would be the top two.
Yep.
For sure. Just for general body awareness.
Yep.
And learning something like a new skill. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, I think those are ones that I definitely would be supportive of, and not too many concussions involved in those.
Yes,
so
yeah.
that should be okay.
That's true, for sure. Just had a question about the pro team that's now been in Edmonton.
Stingers.
Do you find that's been helpful to the younger ranks of basketball within the city?
I think so, for sure. They've done a pretty good job of kind of getting a couple local guys on the team every year.
Yeah.
Because it's a funny league, because for a lot of the guys that play pro overseas, if you're not in like the super tier 1 in like Germany or Spain or something, you don't make a ton of money. Mm-hmm. So this is kind of like a bridge league that allows you to make a bit of extra money in the off season, because it just runs through the summer. But the Stingers have done a good job. They have local management, local ownership, and they've done a good job of getting a couple local players on the team every year, and their coach is local. So they do a good job of kind of year-round local outreach and local kids camps and local things, and it's affordable, and it's at the Expo, which is easy to get to. And I think they've actually done a good job of, like, they get thousands of people there for every game.
Nice.
And I think, like, one of the reasons why the Elks have been struggling with attendance is not just their performance, but the fact that there's other options in Edmonton for summer sports now.
Right.
The Stingers is like perfect family friendly. Like, I'd rather go to the Expo than go to Commonwealth.
Yeah.
Commonwealth is not the best family place, neighborhood and everything else. And it's not that cheap to go to Elks games.
Right. Yeah.
But like for Stingers games, you can get in the door for, I don't know, $10.
Oh.
And then it's like the concessions aren't crazy expensive.
I'm guessing travel's easier.
For sure.
You can park right there.
You can park right there. You can take the train. You can do all these different things. Nice facility. And it's like, basketball is much more high paced. Mm-hmm. Like, my wife doesn't like watching football because she doesn't understand what's going on.
Right.
It's like there's so many penalties. It's so far away.
Yeah.
There's so many guys. Basketball, it's very obvious what the goal is.
Right.
It's very clear. It's kind of, and they play music, and it's fun for kids, and it's kind of more
really
of a family.
engaging.
Really engaging. And the Stingers have done a really good job of engaging with the community. And yeah, lots of local guys. And they have this cool system where they bring, like, even if they don't necessarily play that much, they kind of bring in a couple like red shirt local college kids every year. They have like a college draft where there's a couple kids, and they'll play a few minutes here and there, but a lot of the roster makeup is funny because it's a lot of American pro guys that no locals have ever heard of. Mm-hmm. They went to some smaller school, but they're still trying to kind of kick it and make a few bucks. But then sprinkling in a few local kids makes it more personable. Like, there's a better chance of having heard of the local kid that went to the local high school, went to the local college, and is now playing pro somewhere else, but then comes back in the summer and plays pro here.
Right.
So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's cool that they've connected with the community. Are they connected directly with the high school programs at all? Like,
they had been running like a high school all-star game.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's still running this year. But it was a good way to kind of get to know some of the local high school kids and engage with the high school talent. I don't think it's running this year because I would have heard about something already. But they do a lot of good outreach, more so to like the youth levels, like the younger summer camp sort of things.
Right.
So yeah, they do a really good job.
That's good. Well, I don't know if you guys have anything else to kind of close out with, but
we could go on for another.
I know. We'll have to plan another episode too.
Anytime you want me.
Yeah, we know you're a busy guy, and we really appreciate you coming and sitting with us here today. It's been an awesome conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, boys.
Yeah, we just want to say thank you, and really enjoyed that. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, boys.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in.
To help support the community, please visit our website at usports.community and follow us at usportscommunity on all social media.
You can also follow and rate our podcast on Apple, Spotify, and Audible. Subscribe and like our video feed on YouTube.
Links for all our platforms can be found in the show notes.
Best way to help grow the U-Sports community is to comment on and share our content with your fellow parents and athletes.
This episode was produced by Nick Hussey of Hussey Multimedia, and hydration was provided by Earthwater.
The youth sports community is proudly presented by Nuance Hockey and Mah Golf.
Nuance Hockey provides detail-driven on- and off-ice development in the Edmonton area. For more information, please visit our website at nuance.hockey and follow us on social media.
Mah Golf provides elite coaching for golfers of all skill levels at the Millwoods Golf Club in Edmonton. Our apparel is provided by Burn Barley, prairie-inspired, golf-focused. To receive 15% off your next order, please visit burdenbarley.com and use our promo code YSC15.
We look forward to you joining the community next time.